Okay, everybody. You guys know the rule as always. Like and subscribe. I'm going to start paying attention to those numbers, so I want to see them bumped up a little bit. At least 5 likes every time I do one of these freaking episodes.
T-minus 30 seconds. T-minus 20 seconds. 10, 9, 8, 7, 6, 5, 4, 3, 2, 1, 0.
Okay, Protect Your Balls, episode 2. Trial run. We'll see how this goes. Hopefully it's going to be a new thing for us. Happy to do this today. USARK, like always. By the way, I listened to MJ's intro of one of his podcasts. He does way better at this USARK thing than me, but I'm going to keep saying it. Find ways to donate. Be creative. That's always been my style in the industry. Just donations, memberships. Pay attention to what's going on, guys. Honestly, I think it's always going to keep getting interesting in this hobby. You want to be ready for anything. The more money they have, the more ready we are. So let's get rolling on this episode. Pretty excited. Got a lot of what we'll call heavy hitters. Justin Kobylka, William Moroz, Chad Halker, Bob Vu. Thank you guys for being here for this, honestly. So you guys are all quiet because we just got scolded for 25 straight minutes because I'm half stupid. Couldn't quite figure out this whole internet thing. I'm trying, guys. I'm like an old person. I don't want to be so bad at this. But God, you guys are so quiet now. Okay.
We're waiting for the topics, man.
No, I get it. Well, usually we roll into these things. There's a little bit of a vibe, and then, like I said, getting yelled at for 15 minutes was tough. Very tough. I'm still recovering. But, all right, guys, honestly, so, I want to roll into this episode talking about the Southeast Reptile Expo, Bob's show. Honestly, we all just got back from this. I know we've been talking about it a lot, but honestly, Bob, love the show. Everybody was happy. Like I said, the load in from the start, perfect, easy. Everything about the layout was awesome. Love the new facility. It had that Tinley vibe, being connected to the hotel, the bar areas, giving us a place to hang out afterwards. Just talk to us a little bit. I know we beat this horse. I know we've talked about that show a lot, but give me some vibes after the show. Let me know what some people have been talking since then.
Yeah, it was overall really good for us. I think our struggles moving forward would be a limitation in space and adding vendors. I have so many ball python friends, so they all feel like they should get tables. And then at what point do how many ball python breeders can you add before no one's making, money to make it worthwhile? We've all been to shows before where it's like 80% ball pythons and it makes it such a struggle. So trying to find that balance and not piss everybody off, just walking around on Sunday, most vendors, I think we had 2 vendors that won't be coming back that are, that's conflict of schedule, but everybody's either wanting to add tables or, re-up on their tables. So that's going to be a struggle moving forward. But again, that's just growing pains. We'll figure it out. The venue unfortunately doesn't have all 4 rooms for us to rent for the next one, which is in August. Mainly because these schedules, I never even realized that these venues are booked like 2, 3, 4 years in advance. So right now I sat down with the sales guy the other day and we went ahead and booked 2026, 27, 28 so that we can go ahead and secure our space. So yeah, that's just the growing pains. And again, I'm new at this. This is only our second show. So just things I never figured I'd have to deal with.
Yeah. I remember back in the Herpers DVD that Dave did forever ago, he was talking to Potter about the first Tinley. And I think Tinley, when he said after he did his first Tinley, I think he lost like $50,000. Now, I'm not asking you how you did at the show, but for anybody who's going to try to roll out and do something on a larger scale like you are, should they expect there to be maybe not being in the black right away, maybe expecting to be in the red from the time put in, financially, everything like that?
You can expect, depending on who you are, right? Because if you're just some new guy coming in and trying to get big breeders to come vend your show and charge $200-300 for tables, it's just not going to happen. Again, you guys vended our show, you'll notice table prices are pretty reasonable. We're not at the level where and I don't think we'll ever move to that point where we're charging NARBC or Daytona type pricing. Again, I'm new, so I kind of understand the hesitancy for people to even come vend, travel from out of town or whatever, and take a weekend away from their family just to vend our show. So we try to keep the prices pretty reasonable. But because of that, it's not like we open the doors being in the positive or even breaking even. So, but our goal is that all of our profits will be made with foot traffic through the door. So that puts, again, it's more pressure on me to advertise and get people to the door, which is fine, because that just means I just have to work harder and make sure you guys make money as vendors. So if you're new trying to start something like this off, don't expect to make a ton of money on your first show. I'll throw that out there, because if you don't spend enough to advertise, you're not going to get enough people through the door. And then there's always this like, okay, is this going to be worth it? Is the $15,000 billboards going to be worth it? And then you have to try it out, just because you don't want February 17th to come around and you're like, man, I really wish I would have booked those billboards. That could have been the difference maker. So we went ahead and did all those things. And by the time we, did our balance sheet, our budget sheet, we're like, wow, we're spent $80-something thousand on this show and stuff like that. $30,000-$40,000 in advertising. You can imagine that venue isn't cheap. The overall cost of the venue is close to $50,000, between chairs, tables, rentals, and all that stuff. Having a cop, having cops walk around, having a med tech on duty, which I did not think was that important, but we did have a girl got bit by a snake, and it wasn't a big deal in my opinion. I would have just wiped it off, washed it off, and she'd been fine. The med tech took her to the back where I didn't even realize the venue has like their own med bay area. It looks like they have a full area set up, like a nursing area set up with everything. So it made the people, the attendees, feel a lot better if they knew something like that was available, and stuff like that. But yeah, the overall cost is a lot higher than I think a lot of people that don't do, that are just vending the shows or whatever think it would be. But we've all been to those shows also where we know the cost isn't that high, right? I can easily go out and book a small venue for like $5,000 or less and charge every vendor $100 a table and make sure I make money. But that's not really the goal. The goal is to build this show so that it becomes eventually maybe a national type or a destination type show. We don't want just another reptile show. There's already a gajillion of those. We don't really need to spam those. So we're just wanting to build this, hopefully, and grow as big as possible.
Okay, and I like that. So your timing on the next show being in August, is that because, someday we may lose Daytona and you wanted something fairly close to it based on your date?
Yeah, so our thinking was a few different reasons. Obviously, the first show we had was the same weekend as another show. So we're trying to move off of that date to avoid that from happening again. Again, the first show wasn't bad. People made money. Vendors made money. We had good foot traffic through the door. But I think if we moved it and didn't have a competing show 30 minutes down the street, we can definitely pull in more attendees. The advertising won't be so confusing, us advertising, him advertising. I had a lot of friends that went to the wrong venue, just because of that. So us moving that's one of the reasons. The other reason is we also don't want to be after school comes back in. So September, again, like we had quite a few people, like school had just started back. They didn't really want to attend and stuff like that. And yeah, Daytona, I actually, I know you have an episode with Eugene Bassett coming up. I actually was on the phone with him yesterday for about an hour. And we're talking about Wayne, right? Wayne's 80-something years old. So if he either retires or passes or sells the business, we already know it's not going to be the same. And I believe there's something in the contract with that with Daytona where it won't continue once Wayne's not on the contract anymore, because the contract is with Wayne. So they're not wanting animals to come back to that show. So Daytona eventually, in my opinion, it's one of the best shows in the country, but it will eventually fizzle out or go away. So us pushing
Unfortunately,
that date, right? Again, we all love Daytona. It's the beach.
sure.
That's the only show my wife attends with me. So I love the show, but eventually we have to see, build towards that to kind of not really replace it, because it's very hard to replace a show that's been around for 35 years, but at least have somewhere else for people to go, vendors to go, make a new destination spot. And let's be honest, man, when I first went to Daytona in 2007, I think it was 2007, I went my first time. It was awesome, but I was also young. I was in high school. Going to a hotel was like a really cool thing, right? A hotel on the beach was like amazing.
Of course, still cool.
Now going to Daytona as an adult, I'm like, this place is kind of raggedy. There's homeless everywhere. Again, the venue is beautiful, but the city overall of Daytona, and again, other than the beach, there's not that much to do. You can go to the St. Augustine Alligator Farm and stuff like that. But it really is about it. And again, if you've gone to Atlanta a few times, there's so much to do. A lot of our friends that came in for the show in February ended up going to the aquarium, which is one of the biggest attractions in Atlanta. And it is one of the best, in my opinion, the best aquarium in the country.
Well, I always feel at these big shows, especially after you spend 10 hours driving somewhere, I think more things central make it better. That's one nice thing about Daytona. Plus, man, in my opinion, there is no vibe like Daytona. I understand if you're on the street too late, you could get stabbed and all that, but that's anywhere you live. But like Daytona, like I said, it's got a certain feel to it. And, like I said, I love the convenience of your show of just what was right there in the area. Next time I'll probably do the aquarium or something different. But here's one last question about that show, and then, I'll get on Justin and Chad about it. But so first off, when I was at Chad's table, I had noticed that there was a lot of first-time people coming to a reptile show, and it was your show. Mm-hmm. Now, usually when I'm doing these shows, I like to ask people, hey, how did you find out about the show? Just, my peace of mind. Did you do any of that kind of coming through the door? Like, hey, how'd you hear about us?
Yeah, so we did a lot of that mainly to figure out if it's worthwhile doing banners, billboards, what type of online advertising. Did they see it on TikTok, Instagram, Facebook? Just so we can fine tune it, because we're spending so much money randomly. Because right now we don't know what's the best source, right? We paying Google, paying all these Eventbrite, all these companies, and we figured out basically Facebook ads and Instagram ads are basically the two biggest factors, other than word of mouth, right? Obviously, they have friends that went to the first one and told them about it. It was great, and we expect about 80 to 90% retention rate of customer base. Most of the people that walked out the door had positive things to say about the show. And I feel like this is a good way to introduce people to reptiles. When they go to a classy show, they go to a show where everyone's smiling, everyone's happy, you have good staff, you have a good representation of like all the species. It's a good way to introduce people, because they don't get turned off by, oh my God, I'm going in a swap meet type feel, and these reptile people are all gross, and it's just, see ball pythons in a tank. Because I've seen that. I've gone to shows where, they jam a bunch of normals in a tank and put $20 on it, and you just pick the one you want, and it's just really not the look we're going for. And the new people, I think the bulk of them is from the online advertising and the billboards. The seasoned guy that are going to come and buy $2,000-$3,000 snakes from you guys are mostly going to be between all of us, word of mouth. We post a lot. I post a lot. That's why I constantly talk to Justin about sending me a video about the show. It even took about 30 seconds for him to pull the word kick ass out of his mouth. Posting stuff like that, though, people are like, okay, Justin's gonna be there. I haven't gotten a chance to meet him because I live in South Georgia, whatever. So they're gonna drive out. I have to get Chad and Junior and all these guys to send me videos that they're vending so I can post it, so that people know, oh, I don't get a chance to go to Chicago. I don't get a chance to go to Dallas, so they can come out and make a 2-3 hour drive out and spend some money with you guys.
Yeah, no, that's fair. I mean, your vendor lineup was amazing. When you talk about picking and choosing ball python guys for a show, one thing I always say that promoters don't keep into consideration is, there's a lot of ball python guys that do work with different genes that other guys are not working with. So I guess when it got to the nitty gritty in my mind of who to let in and who not to let in, if you know someone's product, what they're working with. Sometimes the diversity in other projects coming in is probably better off. we get a little saturated, all having the same idea, all going to the show, chasing the same thing. That random guy out there that might focus on only puzzles or only paints or only something else, would actually stand out in a large group of ball python breeders.
Yeah, for sure. Like I wanted Limey, like Limey is the paint guy, like I wanted Limey, but with his health and all, he doesn't really travel much for shows. I think he sticks to like that Columbia, South Carolina show, and I think that's it. Certain guys with certain genetics and species mostly, but it helps that I'm in the ball python world, so I know which guys to bring in. Obviously, there are some breeders that were offended I didn't invite them, or couldn't save them tables. But how many big producers of ball pythons can we fit in that room before it becomes every other table? So I do have to save room for guys like Jim Sargent. I want a blackhead python breeder. I want I want the blood pythons. I want the boas. So I want representation, hopefully, eventually, as we grow, of every major species, and try to get the best of those guys there.
Yeah, your diversity was great. You guys, Justin, you walked around and you did your video, your top 5, I believe, afterwards. Not all your picks were ball pythons, from what I can remember.
Yeah, we tried to open it up a little bit, to other stuff and just get people, excited. We show ball pythons on our channel constantly, and sometimes I think everybody wants a little break from them too. So we try to mix it up a little bit.
Yeah, no, for sure. Big albino burm, solid looking animal. Cool to start seeing more of those in the hobby. Honestly, I don't think I've seen one that big in person yet because it's just such a new project here. Like I said,
you won't, right? You won't in Georgia, especially because they're illegal here. So that's probably going to be the only albino burm you see in Georgia.
So with those new regulations in Georgia, is this same as the Lacey Act? People got grandfathered in, or is it just illegal completely at this point?
It is illegal to breed and sell. The guys that already have them can get a microchip and get a special permit, conditional permit for them. They'd basically be educational ambassador type animals, which that's what Aaron Mathis does. And you just can't breed it and can't sell them. You just get them chipped and that's it.
Interesting. You're telling me that story about that gentleman trying to get in with that larger python. He said it was super tame, and then I heard it grabbed him and then grabbed somebody else.
Oh yeah, the anaconda. Yeah. So you'll notice at my show, there's not a lot of people walking around with like pet snakes on their shoulders. Obviously this for a few reasons. As a vendor, you can see already back in the day, guys would walk around with a book bag full of snakes and ask you, and they'll sell it to your customers right in front of your face, right in front of your table. Hey, you guys want to buy some of this stuff? Or they'll ask you to trade, and their snakes might have mites or whatever. I've had guys, take the snake off their shoulders. I can see mites clearly visible on top of their snake, and I have to tell them to back away from the table, So that's one of the reasons. And the second reason is risk assessment. Obviously, if that snake were to bite another person attending the show, a child or something, it'd become a big issue because it's not a vendor. So our insurance actually won't even cover it. So I had a check-in desk at the front. If you came in with an animal, we check them in at the front desk. You sign a waiver, you put it back with us, and you pick it up later. But I did have a gentleman. His name's Bobby. I know him well. He came in with an anaconda that he bought a year before, and it was on his arm. And I told Bobby, hey, you got to check this animal in. And he says, no, she's super tame, super chill. And I told him, like, hey, that's just the rules for this venue. It's not my rule. It is. But, so I had him sign it. And as soon as he handed the anaconda over it to me, it latched onto my arm. And I'm trickling blood out of my arm. Like, I told you, Bobby. And so, and then when I handed it back to him at the end of the show, when he came out, it bit him too. So he, he understands now that, that's the reasoning.
Yeah. I understand, early in the hobby, people who want to bring their animals out. But like you said, I remember Repticons back in the day where people would be in there with a big animal. You could literally watch mites raining off their animal on display cases. Yep. So big turnoff. I always got to tell people at the shows, like, I just can't let you hold an animal when I'm watching a guy at another table that might be allowing someone to hold a larger boa 500 times. It's just not good. I understand from the outside looking in, it's fun, especially for somebody new. But once you're a seasoned veteran doing this kind of stuff, you do not want to see that kind of stuff at the shows anymore.
Yeah,
for sure. But man, I guess we lost Will again, but we'll get him back in.
Canadian internet, man.
Get Internet Canada, man. Justin, So you're in Africa right now.
Yeah, I'm in Cape Town, South Africa.
Cool. You were talking about that a little bit before we got started, but you want to tell everybody what you're doing down there? Are we allowed to give the heads up?
Yeah, no, it's cool. So I came down here to meet actually with the team that's developing Clutch. So most of our developers are here in South Africa, and I came down here 18 months ago and met with them, and it was just such an amazing experience that I had to do it again. Plus, it's summer here, and still holding on to winter a little bit in Georgia.
Fair
So
enough.
yeah,
Sounds smart.
pretty awesome. Yeah, just had 3 good days of meetings with them, and spent a couple of days actually just touring kind of the wine country here near Cape Town. And it's just one of the most beautiful places on earth. It's one of my favorite places. So super excited.
Oh, really
It's awesome.
cool.
Yeah.
So here's a question. With reticulated pythons, the skin trade was finding a lot of animals, send them to the United States when they were unique. We were breeding them here, and then they ended up buying these mutations back from us into that country. Being in South Africa, when talking to these, when you talk to these breeders, are they working more with people collecting in Africa to try to get those animals before they're leaving to Europe?
No.
No?
They may get some, but for the most part, they are working with mutations that came through the U.S. They don't have any special connection, even though they're in Africa, because they're so far away from where ball pythons are actually from.
We're an
They
ocean
have to
away.
get trucked down here. Yeah. Well, yeah, but it may be almost the same distance. It's probably not, but it is a great distance away.
Okay. Well, maybe we don't want them to
I-
get wise to it, but I was kind of curious if there's some guys over there that just with it in their backyard, essentially, if they're actually talking to those guys, trying to get them before we get a chance to get them, or is it still us just developing everything and sending it back overseas?
Yeah, I think they do have some access to some dinkers, but I don't think it's any greater than we do for sure. And these days, I don't know. Is the dinker trade still what it used to be either in general? I think the proven path to doing well in ball pythons is to buy mutations that are decent. Not that there's not, some cool dinkers, but that I think is a actually slimmer, a narrower path to victory if you want to do
Yeah,
well.
that's hobby stuff to play with on the side, realistically.
Mhm.
And if it's cool, then it can mix in with everything else. But until then,
Yeah.
what? Like,
It's a bit of a
I
long
don't
shot.
waste my time with it much. It's hard to occupy space with it.
Yeah. Plus, you got the space. Of course, Justin, you are working with the Pixel Project. I'm sure that might be something that came out of Outback Reptiles. Bob, of course, you got your Voodoo that you've been working with. Actually, you took a long way in a short period of time because you had a lot of faith in it, clearly, because you put that thing in fucking everything.
Yeah.
But which I dig, by the way. I especially like the super. I love that broad pattern on that. Unlike any other granite project in the hobby, in my opinion.
So here's my question about the animals coming out of Africa, right? Is the reason mutations come out of Africa is because there's so many animals over there being reproduced, bred constantly. They're different stressors from having to adapt to different environments, causes them to show different traits, different colors, different patterns. But now that we're producing, I want to say the U.S. is producing just as many animals as Africa is in the wild. So these genes will eventually just pop up in captivity anyways.
Mhm.
Like,
Yeah, we're
there's
not
no
doing
reason
random
why,
selection.
whatever can't just
Right,
pop up.
we're doing unnatural selection, right? We're actually line breeding to an extent and putting interesting looking animals with interesting looking animals and watching. So I think we have a much better chance actually of popping out something new than the wild.
Oh, absolutely.
Monsoon being one of the big ones for Recessive. I mean, that thing was kind of floating around for a while, and then all of a sudden, boom, here it is. And, it's nothing I've ever seen come out of the wild. Cryptic Krypton stuff, which I definitely want to talk about a little bit today. Actually, I hate it. We got to get Will back in here before we talk about Cryptic or Krypton, because he's the guy that was kind of early in that project. But so Justin, you did your video the other day with your Krypton combo. I thought you had like Cypress Red Stripe in it, probably a couple other things. Do you think that Cryptic and or Krypton will be a standalone project, or do you look at that just being a bonus in your hets while making your clowns?
I think it could be, but I think clowns are just so valuable and popular and accessible that I think for most people they'll continue to mix it in, because it's not like you can't make cryptics and kryptons when you're making clowns. You can actually just make visual snakes at a higher number if you mix it all together. So you get some kryptons, some cryptics, some visual clowns. If you try to isolate either clowns or cryptics, you'll actually end up with fewer visuals, and it's cool to get the mix. So I just don't see why people would likely take it the other way unless they didn't like clowns for some reason, which would be, I think, going counter market.
Yeah, I don't know of anybody that really cares to isolate them that far. Really, it doesn't really make much sense because they're all cool and you could all sell them for what they are, and everybody likes them. So why not have it all?
Yeah, but I don't disagree with that. Like I said, Justin, when you do videos where you are showing off Krypton cryptic stuff, I feel like you do get excited about them, though. Like, they are really standout animals, in my opinion. Even if it's just a beautiful heck clown in your eyes. I mean, again, that one in this past weekend's video, stunning. Love that combo more than I like the combo in the same clown, if that makes sense.
I actually agree with you on that combo for sure. Yeah, it's really gorgeous, and I think there's so much potential with cryptic, and I guess if you wanted to do just cryptic by itself, that's a fine path to go. I just think that, again, having two things popping out of the same project animals is awfully neat. Two different recessives.
Yeah, no, I agree with that. And what was I going to say about that? So I guess the next thing will come up that I'll bring up, and then we'll move on, is so let's say the day comes where we are trying to just focus on cryptic or Krypton combos. Do you think it'll be like the candy game where it's got to be cryptic, it cannot be Krypton, or do you think that's not going to matter?
If the market really thinks that cryptic is genuinely the way to go, then yeah, Kryptons would be worth less. I don't think we're going to get to that point, but that would be a natural assumption at some point. If you wanted to if candies were your thing, then Candinos would have to become less valuable. If that's whatever you're selecting for, right, becomes the criteria.
No, 100%. Whatever's
That doesn't seem to be of interest. I haven't noticed anybody. I don't miss. Maybe I'm not following that stuff that closely, but I haven't really noticed people really caring about that gene so much to separate it and worry about it being separate.
I do agree with that. But over time, things change in this hobby, and what's not popular now might be popular in 5 years.
Yeah, or 6 months or 2 years. You just never know.
You never know.
Whenever that certain animal hits, that's just like earth shattering. That's when those genes become cool again.
By the way, I'm going to message MJ about Will. I got to get him back in because these are all the conversations we got to get him involved in. But here's something we'll get in detail. We'll catch him up to speed when he gets back here. So I had a kid come over to your table when I was at the show, and he called me out about the Desert Ghost Clown Market. I always have said for years, hey, here he comes. All right, William, this is big because this is going to be a conversation with you. We're just getting started. You ready?
Can you hear me?
I can hear you just fine.
If this doesn't work, I'm going to my phone because I don't know what's going on here.
Whatever it takes.
Right, cool.
So what I was saying is at Bob's show, a gentleman came up to the table and said that I said that DG Clown was necessary. You can't just do Clown anymore. You got to have both those genes together. And I've gone as far as saying you need Hypo also. He called me out because of what the price of DG Clowns have done over the last 5 years in the hobby. And he, in that same conversation, asked me if I still thought it was valuable to have those two genes together. I think everybody here will stand by that. And one thing which I talked to him about is, DG and Clown have been accessible in this market since the late 90s. And when the DG Clown became popular, it was not an uncommon thing for Joe Schmo, got 20 animals in my bedroom, to have a DG and Clown combo. And for a guy like that to watch those animals sell for, I remember getting a size, I think 12.5 at one point for just a standard DG Clown or standard pastel DG Clown. All those guys said, cool, I'm going for that. I'm going to make my own double heads. I'm going to make my own visuals. And that essentially put a lot more animals on the market. I don't see the problem with the amount of animals on the market. And that was me trying to explain to him why we saw such a fluctuation in price. But even with that price fluctuation, that should not change anybody's gears on trying to put a DG into all my clown projects, if that makes sense.
Of course not.
Yeah. Price aside, it's still a gorgeous combo. So at the end of the day, is that not the goal of everybody? Is just make better and better looking stuff? Like, you're pretty hard pressed to find, DG hypo clowns. I mean, holy smokes.
Yeah, there's a handful.
They look incredible.
Yeah, absolutely. There's so much to do with this. It's silly to think that there's not value in it. There's so much to do with adding DG and hypo into clown. into all those combos, and we've only scratched the surface on that stuff. Like there's so much to be done. That's a silly statement. Like maybe just a regular DG clown, that's now a building block, and like we've done that. We did that a long time ago, and now we're on to the next phase and the next phase. So of course a regular DG clown shouldn't be valued as high as it was 5 years ago. What's maintained that kind of value in 5 years?
You can compare it to even just like straight clowns, right? Like in
to anything.
A straight clown wasn't that valuable, but you hit a Justin hit Pompei or
right.
all these crazy clown combos, and those had tons of value because they're so hard to hit and they look so much different.
Absolutely.
So just the DG clown has turned almost like, I don't want to say it's the new clown, but like
what it is. What was that one? I mean, but it's almost it's in every collection now.
DG clown
almost.
I don't think he was alluding to the fact that DG Clown doesn't have potential. I think he was more mentioning about the rug pull, or what he felt like was a rug pull, where let's say he bought in a DG Clown at 12.5, which we know people did because I know I sold him at 12.5. So the few of us that got in early and produced them early, let's say 2018, 19, 20, and DG Clown just happened to be the perfect storm. It came during COVID, or the popularity rise during COVID. Everyone's got money. The amount of guys that we saw coming in dropping $100,000 and then fizzled out within 6 months because they just saw the money. So the COVID.
Yeah, it was COVID timing that did that for sure.
I don't blame Miguel at all because I made so much money off of the deal. But Miguel coming out with these videos saying, man, I just cut this clutch for $200,000. So there's, 8 DG clowns, whatever it is. And so all of it came at the perfect time. Miguel's popularity, COVID, all the stuff. And then Justin, having Pompei. So now we already know that down the road, DG Pompei is going to be the goal. We already have a target goal. And then now we know using this, using 2 very simple ingredients, I can make a $12,000 animal. So I think all of it came the perfect storm. Everyone bought in at the same time. Even Brock Wagner bought it for $10,000. So it's not like he's a rookie, but fear of missing out. The fear of missing out, you got to produce. So hell, I bought my first DG Pie for $10,000 because I wanted to make them so bad. And I don't feel like the rug was pulled under my feet because I was able to recoup my money. But for a lot of these guys that weren't able to recoup their money, let's say I bought the DG Pie with a ton of hets that I already had available, a ton of pies I had available. So I recouped my money within the first 2 clutches easily with holdbacks. But for a lot of these guys that, like you said, a collection with 20, 30 animals going by a $12,000 animal, they're not going to make their money back the first 2, 3 years, 4 years. And then all of a sudden now it's 2024, 25, and they're watching DG Clown sell for $1,000. It is going to be disheartening and going, is it even worth producing DG Clowns anymore? But when I'll
still sell things for $1,000. I have no problem with that. I'll never complain.
No, but we're seasoned, right? We're seasoned. We know as long as a male or a female produces, we're going to make money. Who cares if the price went in half or a quarter? We're going to make money as long as you're producing eggs. But it's very hard to explain that to a new person that just dropped $12,500.
Yeah,
watching an animal sell for $1,000. It's hard to explain that.
I think people jump into some projects maybe prematurely too, like their collection's not ready for a male like that, and they just they get a male like that, and then they expect everybody.
That's why I was able to buy in at the high end because I did have the animals for that male. I already had done the homework, and I could justify spending that money at the time, and I don't regret it at all. And my holdbacks from that animal are exponentially from what I even made off of it. I made my money back by far, but just with the holdbacks from that original purchase, that's taken me to this level where I'm at now. If I didn't do that, it would be, you just become irrelevant super fast if you're not doing that.
It's also really easy to use DG Clown as the whipping boy, as that one. But
I guess they weren't around during Banana. Did they not get burned by that too?
Exactly.
Well, I always say that especially in ball pythons, a new person has about a 5-year make it or break it. 3 years to grow up your stock, 2 years of producing and sales. And if you can't get through those 2 years, a lot of times people start selling their animals off. So like you guys said, not many people have seen some of the drops in the market in the past. And, my whole comment initially was understanding why that drop happened. And it was in understanding that a lot of people only invested a couple $100 into the DG project at one point. So they had them laying around. At one point, DGs were kind of being given away in a sense. Just buying in at the right time or having an understanding of the market. we don't have to say the price, but Justin, I'm sure you guys know, if you bought into DG Visual Clowns in, let's say, 2017, you were paying a lot less than what people were paying in 19 and 20 because they weren't really coming on yet, but you guys saw the potential in them and already started making moves to make those animals.
Yeah, you do the best if you can, I think, beat the market to something that will be there in the future, right? And that requires that you see the same thing. You're talking about this guy. He's like, well, is there a future in DG clowns? Well, use your eyes, right? And some of us, we have the benefit of being in here a long time and having a lot of hindsight, but we've learned to use our eyes when we see animals and say, is this animal objectively more beautiful? Yes, I'm going to buy it no matter what the market's telling me. The market doesn't like him. Great. It means it's a better deal. In the end, the beautiful animals always win. They're always the best case scenario. You buy anything hot that is hot because it's rare, or it's hot because of a little bit of a buzz. It's a dicey game if it's not beautiful as well. It's a really dicey game, and you better get in and get out quick if you're going to be okay.
Have you guys ever had a customer invest big on something that kind of came down over a year or 2 year period and then have come back to you saying, hey, why didn't you let me know this was possible?
You mean like an extra gene that you didn't know was in there? Is that the question?
No. Like, let's just say somebody bought a DG clown from you, Chad, in 2020, and then in 2022 they were $1,000 or $2,000. You ever had somebody come to you and say, man, why couldn't you have told me this was going to happen?
No, I've never had anybody ask me that.
Just asking, just curious.
Yeah.
Not just you in general, anybody really.
I mean, that's after $1,000. Pretty much every animal after that $1,000 price point is an investment vehicle type animal, right? Most people are looking at it as an investment, and we're not financial advisors, so you got to do your own research. You gotta.
Yeah, I take no responsibility for that kind of stuff.
You gotta be responsible, man, and you got to know that you can produce. Justin, just curious. Right now, let's say a male Xanthic DG clown. Let's say it's $30,000, $35,000, $40,000. For a brand new guy to buy that animal, they're probably not going to make their money back within the first 2 years.
Well, assuming they're brand new, they probably have relatively small number of females, and they're probably not triple hets. So they're likely going to make triple hets or clown hets or whatever. And those are pretty low value animals right now. So no, it wouldn't be a quick buck. Right. So, but for a guy, let's say, got fairly seasoned, but with a decent collection, really nice collection. Let's say John Towers, right? We know John's likes to buy stuff, but if that animal lands into John Towers' collection, he's going to make his money back the first year easily, right? He has so many high-end animals. Put it to a monsoon in one clutch, he's good. Right.
You throw it on a monsoon, you throw it on Sunset at DG, so anything like that, you're going to make your money back first clutch. So when we're talking about these investment vehicle type animals, it's your own research, your own risk assessment, and you have to know what you own already. In my collection, I know I have these animals. I'll make this animal worthwhile. Like, I'm not going to go out there and buy monsoon sunset because I know my collection is not very heavy in monsoon or sunsets. So it's not very worthwhile for my collection, but for someone else's collection, it might be. So that's the type of risk assessment we as breeders can't really do for you as a customer most of the time.
Yeah, we don't give a ton of advice, but there are times, if somebody were to come to me and say, hey, I want to buy an Xanthic DG clown for 30 or whatever, whatever it would be at the moment. I would a lot of times, a customer like that, I know it's not a pet. I would say, hey, what's your thought on this? What you got? What are you planning? I'd love to talk to you about it. And a lot of times they're pretty cagey, to be honest with you. A lot of people don't want to share with me necessarily what they're thinking, but if they do and they said, well, I'm just getting started, I would say, hey, this I will sell you whatever animal you want. In the end, you have your own reasons, your own plans, your own strategies. But if you take that 40 grand or 30 or whatever and put it into females and came back in 3 years and got a male, you'd be way ahead. I know it's not sexy to buy some, clown head Xanthic DGs or whatever variation, but it's not sexy, but it will get you much further ahead. I would definitely tell them that, given the opportunity.
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, you can only do so much to coach people, and I'm kind of the same way when people ask me for advice. First I say, what does your collection look like? And they might say, hey, it's 50% puzzle right now. I'm like, so your goal is now to make better puzzles for the future and get more recessives into them and keep building. So it might be, hey, go out and get a DG hypo het puzzle. That's going to give you triple hets in all your pairings. You're going to make some visual puzzles along the way. Certain things like that. But like you said, you can only hold their hands so much. And some of this is guessing. There's a lot of variables that happen in this hobby that are out of our control. I always say this isn't like Walmart pricing. We don't have like a set price. You can go to a show and see 30 different prices on the exact same animal. So only so much control over what we can do. Because even I'll be honest, I don't listen to a lot of podcasts. I don't know why. I probably need to listen to more, but I listen to Justin, Miguel, and MJ. First off, great podcast. Loved all your topics. I'm really glad I listened to it because I didn't want to talk about any of that stuff afterwards, seeing the conversation already happened. But one thing I got out of it is you made a comment. You can only do so much with your customer base. You can only give them so much advice. You kind of you got to do it on their own a little bit. And then the Japanese market. I remember back in the day, Daisuke coming to the shows, rumors of having $250,000 at some shows in a book bag. And he was doing that 3-4 times a year. So, that market's kind of been built up for years at this point. But when you went over there, you were talking about just how refined it is. Do you want to talk a little bit about that?
Yeah, and I know Bob's going to go over there in Japan with as am I in a month or so. It's a great market. Now, Daisuke, I sent a handful of animals to Japan through him, but very, very few. I don't think he was sending a lot of high-end animals over. I think he was sending a lot of middle quality to pet quality animals. I think it's only been the last, I'd say 4 years or so that really high-end animals have been going over there in any kind of significant numbers. And that's really awesome. Their breeder market's kind of taken off a little bit. And I think we're really, really close to seeing them really start to boom as far as making some stuff that we aren't even making over here yet. I know I've sent animals over there that can definitely produce animals that are well beyond what we've seen. But yeah, I would say they're relatively refined. These are the people who, not to be stereotypical, but refined the koi over, tens of thousands of years or whatever, right? They know how to do their stuff and they have an eye for it and they do love it. They love it on a level that I think is really unique and really special. So I'm really excited about their market. I'm excited about seeing where it's going to go in the next couple of years for sure.
Yeah. The koi is a great example because, like you said, that's been something that's been line bred traits refined forever. I want to say hundreds of years. I don't know if it's been thousands of years yet, but something that they put the time into, and because that there's these unbelievable looking animals over there. You guys both have customers from Japan hitting you up, and that's because of what you guys do on marketing on Instagram, Facebook, YouTube. A lot of people in the hobby always ask me, how do you get an overseas buyer? You don't get an overseas buyer. They come to you. And it's up to you to put yourself out there and show something off that they want and start that relationship. I've found personally over the years that Instagram has been the best for me when finding overseas customers or overseas customers finding me. Has that been the same for you guys?
I mean, I get a message from there. Yeah, for sure.
Yeah, but Japan is almost exclusively on X, though.
Oh, really?
The Japanese customers are huge on X. They all use X. They all follow each other on X. They do go to Instagram to see our stuff, but if you go over there and start following, you'll actually get a better. If you can connect with them, you'll actually get more exposure to the Japanese market over there.
Very cool.
Justin, Bob, you guys are both on X, I take it?
Yeah.
Okay. I've never messed with that platform at all. I don't know why.
I haven't either, not yet. I feel like I'm on so much social media, but it is important as for marketing. But I try to avoid extra social media platforms just so I'm not wasting too much time, But it's probably smart to be on there just for marketing purposes,
I'll tell you why Daisuke and Justin didn't do a lot of business together. I was lucky enough to have come in at the exact time where Dai was still coming over here with $40 million in his book bag. But at that time, I was producing a lot. Let's say Dai's time of buying a lot of animals was like 2015 through about 20-ish, right?
Yeah.
Around that time is when I just went full time. So I'm producing a lot of clutches, but I'm not
Mhm.
producing, it's not like I'm producing $10,000, $20,000 animals. So I had a ton of $1,000 animals. And what Dai does is he comes to your table and he grabs a little chalk pen thingy.
Yeah.
And he just
Starts.
starts marking all the glass.
Starts putting check marks, or you can give him a marker.
Yeah, you give him a marker, and he just the whole table, and he literally will take 100 animals off your table at a time if you can work a deal out.
If you want a deal, yeah.
Yeah, you want a deal, and again, like he will make your Daytona. I'll go to Daytona and I will drop 10, 20, 30 grand with you depending on the year. Arlington, he'd always be good for Arlington. Those were like his two big shows at Arlington and Daytona. For some reason, you never see Dai in Tinley. But yeah, so that strategy doesn't quite work at Justin's table, right? Justin,
different platform.
To 50 animals, half of them aren't for sale, and you're not gonna get 40.
Everything's NFS.
You're not gonna go to Justin and request 40% off, 30% off. It's not like he's not posting a bunch of animals that he has 42 of. I'll bring you've seen my table. I'll have a whole case of Blue Eye Lucy's, a whole case of Batman, stuff like that. So I know I have a room to wiggle with on some of these animals. So with Justin, he'll have these top end guys that just want to upgrade their collection. Then they'll look at animals. But for Dai, he was looking, okay, of these, 10 of these, so I can bring it back to Japan and resell them or drop them into these pet shops. I believe Dai owns a pet shop also. So that's the difference in some of the export market. There are guys out there that literally just buy and resell to their markets. A lot of guys in Thailand are like that. And then there are some top end breeders over there that only look at high end animals, which, again, you just have to deal with them a little bit differently. The discounts are different. And some of these guys, man, I'll tell you, they beat you up and they want to beat you up pretty bad.
Yeah. You're right about the pet store. I know he's got at least one location, and like you said, there's a value to him to come over here, buy palmettos, buy albino hognose, buy leucistic ball pythons, because the pet market there, his markup might be 500%, might be 700% on some of that stuff, where that $150 sale to you is nothing, but he's taking that back and making a lot of money on a thing like that. So for him, he was more of a quantity guy, and don't get me wrong, he would go after quality, but the deal would have to be there. That's all it ever was, is there just had to be the right deal. By the way, I've always liked Dai. He's always been good to me over the years, always had great conversations. Miss seeing him around, unfortunately, goodbye, bud. But
He'll be back. I think he's only 6 more years. He'll be back.
6 more years, and he's going to look the same age as when he left. I can't wait.
Oh, yeah.
But so, it's not really a mystery that puzzles really starting to come on. I feel like it's been 5 or 6 years of people saying, why isn't this more of a relevant trait? I've said to a couple people that I think the problem with some puzzle combos is just because it looks good in clown, it doesn't look good in puzzle. William, you got a lot of experience. Justin, you've been coming on. Honestly, all 4 of you guys are in the puzzle project pretty heavy right now.
I've been focused pretty hard on that one.
Yeah, you guys are still more in the development stage of things at this point and holding things back. I mean, I know you guys are selling, but
I feel like I'm constantly in that stage. I don't think I'm ever going to escape it.
Yeah, I live.
Am I wrong, or does everybody feel that way?
Yeah, I live there.
I just live there, man. It's like
for 15 years.
Constantly thinking about 5 years out, dude. Always, and it makes stuff irrelevant before it's irrelevant in my own head.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
And this is kind of a shitty thing to say, and if Sean's listening, just know, Sean, I don't mean this to be mean, but a lot of people stayed out of that project because they didn't like Sean. I received some animals I bought for some people because they just didn't want to be associated because they didn't like his attitude. And like I said, bygones be bygones. Me and Sean talk. I like Sean, but there is a truth behind that. Do you think that project taking so long to come on was actually a benefit for the hobby? Or do you think it kind of hit at the right time, even though it's been around for 15 years plus?
I think it's benefit or a negative. I think it's just the natural cycle of ball pythons, really. Like the clown for what? How long has it been now? Like 2012, probably. Justin, when did you really start pumping those like crazy clowns out? Batman was what, 2012, 2013?
It was. Yeah, it sounds right. I'd have to check. That sounds right.
So, like clown took over. Like anybody with any eyeballs was going towards clown. You know, like we were seeing so many different looks, and that's, I think, super important. Puzzle's a tricky one. Like there's some combos that I'm just blown away with, and then others that I'm kind of like, oh, that's it. You know, it's a tough one to work with, but I tend to get surprised with it. You know,
it's also unfair to compare it to clown. It doesn't have to be clown. It doesn't have to measure up to the same standard as clown does to still be super relevant. It's unfair to compare them.
I get that question all the time. Like, do you think puzzle will be as big as clown? I was like, man, if it's 20% as big as clown, it's amazing.
Yeah.
You know, like.
Yeah, I don't know if it will be or not, but it's everything I'm hatching so far. I'm blown out of the water, man. I love it.
Yeah,
I just can't and that it's got other people have to feel the same way.
You guys feel like we're desensitized to adding genes? Like, okay, so when Clown came out, or not when Clown came out, but when Justin started with Batman, right? Every next gene we add is mind blowing, right?
Big time.
Yellow belly, you add, like all this stuff, like everything you add, it's like, oh, boom, 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 boom.
Yeah.
It's been 10 years since that happened. Puzzle, you're like, okay, like
it's like the same expectations there.
We want more. Let me see that in DG. Let me see that with hypo. Let me see it with all this, because our imagination has kind of run a little wild. Like you said, things have become irrelevant before it even got to be relevant.
Right.
So I think we became so desensitized to it that it doesn't blow our mind as much anymore because it's so kind of old news.
And I think that's across the board with like everything too, right? Like not just puzzle, just across the board. Like
things are happening faster for everybody.
Combos, I find myself doing it. I'm kind of like, oh yeah, like that's one of the new clowns. But 8 years ago, I'd be like losing my mind because of that. It's
right.
It's almost like we've seen so much cool stuff that it's, I scroll on Instagram and every second flick of my finger is a crazy combo. But it's like we see it so much of it that, it is a little, you're a little desensitized to it, I think.
Well, I mean, the hobby moves fast now. And I mean, with the ingredients that the four of you guys are putting out there, of course, everybody out there is producing nice stuff. And, a lot of people made huge moves during COVID. And because of that, we see that on Instagram, on Facebook today. Even Antoine producing that, what was that? GHI Stranger, was it Acid Clown?
Red Stripe.
Red Stripe.
Something. Yeah.
Okay, there was no acid in that, right?
I don't think so.
Yeah, I think you got that Red Stripe GHI and Stranger. But no, I thought that was a pretty incredible animal. I did see you put it up for sale. I understand it's a female, and I know you guys will probably say you might have put that one to the side for yourselves. But, with an animal like that, have you guys ever put an animal up demanding a price you thought was fair and sits around for a few months and you said, fuck it, I'm keeping this thing?
All the time.
Usually.
All the time. If it sits around and gets like some nice chunky size on it, I'm quick to hold it back.
Yep.
Well, that's fair. Just kind of going back to puzzle. So that pastel DG puzzle female you had at the show, Chad, last Lee. What was that female? Like 600 grams, 800 grams?
It was like 4 something. Yeah, 450. Yeah.
Right, so almost that sweet spot. Honestly, to that sweet spot because that animal was glowing.
Yeah.
I think that was probably, in my opinion, even for only being a 3-gene combo, one of my favorite combos at the show that weekend.
Oh yeah, and like, man, I haven't seen too many. None of us have seen too many combos of that yet. Just start adding. We've seen a couple hypos, we've seen a couple genes in there, but there's not much, especially without pastel. Like, I'm just super excited to start seeing stuff from it, and it's coming real close.
Yeah.
Can I bring something up about the puzzle real fast?
Yes.
Well, we see in the puzzle, it's so easy to think of these things kind of by themselves, but what's happened with the puzzle has happened with every recessive. Every recessive comes out of the gate hot because it's a new recessive. But after a bunch of people started getting it, people started saying, oh no, the price is going to drop. And they haven't seen any great combos yet, simply because no one's had time to make great combos yet, right? And the value drops out of them, the price drops out of them. Clown was almost dead between the killer clown and the leopard clown. It was
Mhm.
nobody cared about clown during that time. Very, very few people did. Because people had all their killer clowns and they just didn't know where to go from it. They didn't see a future, right?
Nobody
You
had the vision
Sunset.
back then like they do now.
Right. Well, I'm not sure they have great vision now either, but yes.
I don't say nobody, but there's a few of us.
No, few people. I say a few people. There.
Yeah, yeah.
But the Sunset did the same thing. Sunset was so hot, when Ben, bought his and Brock bought his, the first one, Brock
Mhm.
and Brad. And then it went really quiet, and then it went hot during COVID again, right? These things, all these recessives always have this dip. And Puzzle, I think it was initially exciting, but it wasn't until recently that we started seeing stuff that really get people excited. And people have a hard time holding multiple genes as exciting at the same time. People always want one to be the one, right? And so if Clown is doing really, really well, everything else is going to get pushed down, even if it shouldn't be, And if,
Mhm.
Puzzle is going really, really, really well, other things that should be valued are probably not going to be as valued as they're supposed to be. And that's, as breeders, that's what we're supposed to be able to see. We're supposed to be able to see, yeah, everybody wants this. It's obviously great, but they're not really appreciating these other things because they can't like two things at the same time. People have a terrible time liking two things at the same time, which is kind of very limiting,
But what-
right?
Yeah.
But as good breeders, we could actually use that as an opportunity to say, hey, this is underrated. This is really, really cool. And it will get its day eventually. So now's the time to get it.
For sure. That's taken a long time for me to learn personally, to not follow everybody else and to start to focus my projects to be there where there was a void. I'm starting to feel that I'm getting in that position a little bit better now.
And the recessive mindset in the hobby. I mean,
Experience thing.
yeah, Xanthic. Everyone kind of stopped carrying. Now Xanthic's super hot again. Paint. Everybody stopped carrying. Now all of a sudden, paint's coming out hot again. Like you said, Sunset had a dip. Nobody really cared. Which, by the way, Brock Wagner and those guys really benefited from all of us shitting on that project because they pretty much took all the money for about 5-6 years there. Lucky them. But yeah, no, I like when people don't like things personally, especially in a recessive, because it seems like you said inevitably they're going to come back on. And, you could be stubborn. You could say, oh, I'll wait. If you wait, you could be buying paints at $200 6 years ago, or you could be buying paints at $1,000 to $2,000 today because suddenly you see a vision because other people have done the work for you.
And they're still not even that popular yet. And they've still quadrupled in price, right? So it's still a great time to get into them, in my opinion. Paint is so underrated.
Yeah, they still sell for a pretty good price point, and they're in demand for sure.
Yeah. All four of you guys have paint in your collection at the moment?
Yep.
And by the way, Justin, you're paint clown on the table at Atlanta.
Oh.
Beautiful animal.
That's the only snake picture I took that weekend.
Yeah.
Oh, really? Unfortunately, she's part though, but she is pretty.
Oh yeah, it's cool looking. It's a project I think we're all kind of like want to see more of, and that's just by itself with no other genes that look really cool.
It does.
That was good, and I'm sure we're going to start seeing more double recessives, even triple recessives in that project. I like the pattern play in it. I like seeing the clown in it. Looking forward to the day we get to see the puzzle in it, and kind of see where it goes. So, Justin, this might be a weird question, and, if it's a non-conversation, we don't have to jump into it, but there was a gentleman, I can't remember his business name. He did a video where he had bred one of your pixel animals to, I believe it was a clown combo pos head paint, and he made a few peculiar-looking animals in there. You know what I'm talking about?
I have not seen that video, no.
Oh, geez. I could bring it up, and we'll go off topic, and then I'll bring us back to it, but... how about this? One thing I want to bring up is, you guys remember the Mike Wilbanks paper on the Scalless heads where he talked about the 3 lines between Scalless head, the Winston line, the BHB line, and then the micro scale? And he essentially wrote a paper convincing people, or it was like an investment paper. Hey guys, we can now take every combo we've ever done, and now we're going to do it in the Scalless form, and so on and so forth. Is that kind of the same logic to hypo and DG being added to these other pattern recessives? Like, let's do it all over again, or are we still?
I mean, kind of. That's kind of, yeah.
And there's not necessarily anything wrong with that, because now that people want better looking adults, why not have DG and hypo and everything?
I think it's more than that. Yeah, I think it's evolved past just slap DG and hypo on stuff and redo it all over, because we're seeing combos that haven't even been made in like for puzzle, for example, single gene puzzle combos. We're seeing stuff that has not even been made in puzzle. We see people with the triple and quad hats already made for them.
Yeah,
we're almost
right.
like
It's already got hypo in it, and they missed the single gene version already.
Right? Yeah.
It's going to happen here, and where you're at too, though. Like there's so much shit stacked already that when we hit the puzzle period, it's already going to have hypo or DG or something else in it.
Pretty much, yeah. Justin, had you made your that it was like a Pompei Fire GHI? Had you made that outside of Clown before you hit it or outside of DG before you hit it in DG?
Yes, I had made it 1 year, I think 1 or 2 years before. One of them, yeah.
Okay, so very limited numbers with it. It's not like they're everywhere,
right.
Oh
no.
So
yeah, that's what we're doing. Mixing these things. If you have an opportunity to jump ahead before you get the ingredients, the middle stages, right? Yeah.
But why slow down just to hit the steps in order? I can't. You know what I mean? That doesn't make sense to do either.
No, I agree with that. It's just, again, I have a lot of what I'll consider not small conversation, but small breeder conversations. You're more backyard breeder, you're more hobbyist. And, I have a lot of real conversations with them where, like we talked about in the beginning, they want not advice, they want to be told. Like, you need to do this. And like you said, it doesn't really work that way. For example.
The challenge is by the time I know that you need to do it, it's probably too late.
Yeah.
To do really well with it. It's the things I think, but I'm not sure on. That's probably the most likely scenario to pay off because of the velocity of so many people. Once something becomes obvious, like once everybody knows to invest in NVIDIA, you should have invested a year ago, right? That's the thought process behind it. And that's how it works with ball pythons too. So I would love to be able to give advice and have it work out. But I know if what I tell them that I know for sure, it's too late. It's the stuff that I'll say, I think this is a good gene. I think this is going to become more valuable. And it's either going to pay off big or it'll probably be kind of a neutral. You're probably not going to lose your butt on anything that's possible,
Although I think as we go down like the triple quad recessive road, I think that becomes less and less. Like I can say to somebody right now, like, I know you'll do fine going DGA's Anthic Clown or DGA's Anthic Puzzle or whatever, because there's just so much there to do, right?
Yeah.
Like, really, how many DGA's Anthic Clown combos have we seen? Like under 10, maybe? Has there even been 10? 2? Yeah.
Enchi and Pin, I think. Yeah.
Enchi and Pinstripe. So that's where we're, I can still say to somebody now that, yes, absolutely, you can still do just fine with that project. I don't think it's too late in those, because the odds are just so against you for a lot of that stuff that it becomes so hard to hit.
Yeah. But people usually want to be told it's something like the next Codom or something. They don't want to be told to buy triple heads,
Right.
It's a no-brainer to buy these triple heads, normal-looking snakes.
There's more.
They want to know. They want to know, should
what's
I buy
the next stranger type thing? Yeah.
Right. That's the fast money if it works, right?
Yeah.
We were all around when Sean was selling out all the puzzles, and I had at least 10 people ask me if they should buy the collection. That's something where you're on the fence about. That would have been
tough,
but that's a tough one right there, right? I mean, I believe the collection was like $100,000, and I don't want to tell anybody drop $100,000 on all these puzzles, and then no one wants puzzles. Because again, at the time, puzzles weren't that hot. It could be for any reason. It could be because of people didn't want to deal with Sean. It could be because any reason at the time. The market wasn't great. We produced hypo puzzles. Dave, you remember this? We produced hypo puzzles in 2018. And we sold it for almost the exact same amount of money someone sold it at last year. In 2018, hypo puzzles were almost $5,000. I sold them for $4,750. I think Brad Boa bought a pair. Jean Francois bought a pair. And I sold, and I thought it was great money in 2018. But hindsight, I would have kept every. If I would have called Justin and said, "Hey, Justin, what should I do with these hypo puzzles?" That's a tough one right there, right? Because what if puzzles don't didn't make it, and then all of a sudden I'm sitting on all
I
these
said
puzzle
keep
decks.
2, sell 2 is what I would have said. I would play the middle in those situations. Yeah,
I kept a few, so we
Yeah,
were
safe.
fine. But
Yeah.
if I would have kept every single female hypo puzzle I hatched back in the day, would have, So again, it's so much hindsight where we're like, yeah, I should have definitely done that, But I don't want to throw that advice out to somebody and be like, yeah, keep every single DG clown you hatch, keep all the males too, so you can crank them out at 10 grand a piece, and then it drops to $1,000, and then I look.
You sold none. You sold none the whole time.
Yeah.
You got to sell. You have to sell. Like if you have, it's nice to be able to have and produce enough where you can sell a couple of them and keep a couple. That's the best case scenario.
It never seems to work like
you
that
always
for me.
need cash
I hit
flow.
one.
No, right.
I hit one. And it's like, oh, now what? Yeah.
RGI or just some shed testing in general, which is really coming a long way. I know a lot of people are really hyped about it. I've given a lot of advice to little guys. Don't be afraid to go out and get a triple or quad het male to just put into your codoms. Seems like the long route, but it's kind of a cheat code. You can easily get yourself to where the other guys are without having to spend tens of thousands of dollars. Let's talk about pros and cons on this, because first off, it seems like everybody's sheds that are pos het are always proven out, or as in they're always getting test back and they're all 100% hets.
I think they just talk about those.
I think you don't.
I don't think they talk about the other ones. Yeah.
Yeah, I get a lot of losers too, a lot of losses.
That's definitely not
Man.
how it works. Yeah.
And then that bill, when you have to pay that bill, it hurts a lot more when you get like bad odds.
When,
You're like,
when
I
they
not
don't
pay.
prove out, I'm like, I don't want to pay for this. Yeah.
Totally fair.
Yeah, I don't gloat about the losses very often.
Yeah.
Right? Yeah, maybe we should start doing that. Look how many didn't prove out for me. Yeah.
I
It's not exciting.
I leave the negativity off social. I never show anybody that side.
Yeah.
It's a better look. You know what I mean? I'm not going to vent on Facebook.
I think it's the same deal where everyone thinks Justin hits the odds all the time.
For sure.
Yeah.
Yeah, it doesn't see all the
Seems
L.
like it from Facebook. Yeah.
Well, you do hit the odds all the time, man, because I watch the videos. You're always hitting.
That's the only ones I show.
From my
Every
perspective,
video
you crush the odds.
Yeah. Every video.
Not false advertising, honestly.
Mhm.
Which, by the way, quick little shout out. Adding Inchi to the acid combo clowns, really like that. Reduces down the pattern a little bit, but honestly still leaves a lot of pattern to play with.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, it's pretty interesting.
Thanks, Dave.
Yeah, I'm sorry, why, did you make one too and I missed it? Did you make
No.
a video that I watched on Friday that I remember weekly? So here's the thing. Okay, why are people making more videos like Justin? Like, everybody understands the benefit. And by the way, Justin, the work is amazing. I think it's a benefit to the whole hobby, which you do on a weekly basis. But it seems like more people should be. Is it that the average collection doesn't pump out a hitter every week, and that's why they can't do this, pretty much?
Yeah.
Yeah, they might not be able to produce the content.
It's hard. It's hard. Even when we have slow periods, it gets hard to produce, fine stuff. We end up doing video like, hey, updates on adults, right? Because we run out of cool snakes to show. And also, we feel pretty strongly that we don't, no matter if we had an unlimited number of cool new babies, even if that was true, it's not really best to give the customers whiplash every week. Something like, this project's cool. No, this project's cool. Now this project's cool.
Yeah, true.
What
Yeah.
do you even do, right?
Nobody can focus at all.
We already have that enough, as it is. So in a way, it's better not to show too many bangers in a row, right? It's better to show some more normal looking snakes and more educational and it
Building
takes a lot of
blocks and
work.
things like that.
People don't do it, Yeah, even I get burned out sometimes. I've taken at least 2 1-year hiatuses over the years where I just got burned out. And now it's easier just because we have staff doing the editing and stuff. Otherwise, I'd probably be burned out right now as well.
And that's something I would have to personally hire. I would have to hire a couple people to do the production and the video and all that. I don't do that stuff, and that's what it would take to produce that for me. I'm not doing that on my own.
Why I stopped doing YouTube. I just I like talking about snakes. I can talk about snakes all day long. I don't like the editing, the
Right.
taking the camera out, doing all that stuff, uploading it, responding to
You do the
comments.
whole
I
thing
just-
and find out you didn't have audio or right.
Yeah.
You're
yeah.
Have you
Yeah,
compared
exactly.
views to your YouTube videos though to your podcasts though? This seems like the better format almost anymore. To just go through podcasts. and get a lot of your info from it? Or people, what do your YouTube views look like on like your instructional videos and stuff like that compared to your podcast views? Because
way down.
Well, I don't. Yeah, podcasts are down because they're long form, but I think you get more out of them.
Right.
Our views are definitely down ever since our views move with the market, and which
Okay.
is really interesting. When prices start falling, our views start falling. It's same as crypto. Everybody's checking their crypto pricing when crypto is hot, and they stop looking when it's going down, right?
Right.
So it just moves with the market.
Okay.
So, Justin, you guys can all speak on this. When you made the comment in the video about how the 2024 market was a continuation of the 2023 market, you didn't necessarily mean that as a negative. That was more of things are still steady, or what did you mean by that?
Yeah, I just didn't feel like 2023 was really precipitous, and 2024 things did drop, but more at a standard rate that we were probably used to pre-COVID. Everything if we can remember far enough back, things just did drop a little bit every year. They didn't plunge like they did, right after COVID. But I feel like now we're kind of in a steady zone, and this is my feeling, and my feeling is just one breeder, right? But I feel like we're in a steady zone where things aren't massively volatile right now. They aren't great. They're not heating up necessarily, but it feels very, very steady month to month, and prices feel like, I can put a price up there and don't have to change it in 60 days, like I used to.
Yeah.
You guys can all comment on that. Feel free.
2024 for me was definitely a slower year, especially when you compare to the last 4 prior to that. 2025 has been, I'm really surprised by it, honestly. I kind of thought we'd be in for a couple slow years, and 2025 has picked up pretty well. I'm pretty happy with it. So I don't know. I don't really know.
Like my online sales this year so far have been fine, like consistent, not necessarily crazy high end, but consistent. It shows same so far in 2024. I haven't really noticed like people at shows are spending money. They're just not spending tons of money each time. But I sold a lot of snakes in 2024. Between everything I produced and sold, like the people are still buying stuff. They just can't. It's just a lower price point. That's the only difference.
Well, lower price point, broader market. Only so many guys can buy in at 10, and that's why after 10 it drops to 5, and then after 5 it drops to 2 very fast because again it's easier to get someone to spend 5 than it is 2 a lot of times.
Definitely.
And Bob, I'm sure you got this text message. So I'm sure Darian copy and paste like I do with everybody. But he messaged me over the weekend and said that Morph Market had 3 incredible days, and one of those days was a record-setting day for the website in total sales. So, just like you said, William, how 25 has started out pretty good, people spending money, so on and so forth. I mean, it's definitely reflected on Morph Market. But, one other conversation we've been having, I'm sure you guys have had about Palm Street and just all these different sites where you can do auctioning at this point. I'm sure you guys remember at one point we had the Reptile Ring, the Ben Siegel auction, and then Facebook auctions running pretty steady. I don't know if there's more auctions out there now, but what do you guys feel the influence of auctions on this market at this point? Chad, you could start us out if you got something to tip your tongue.
I mean, I feel that with the abundance of ball pythons and the fact that everything was so stagnant for so long, I think they were necessary at the time. I use them some. It should not be your business. It should not be the way to run your business is you just auction everything. It should be used strategically to get rid of animals that are maybe hard to get rid of, or just to move a little extra volume at a certain time where you maybe have too much. I don't see anything, but I've only used Morph Market auctions. I can't speak on all the other sites. I haven't really even looked at any of those other ones.
Yeah, so the text message from Darian can be interpreted in a few different ways, Dave, because he obviously wants us to view it as the sales have been record breaking. However, obviously we know by price point it's not, right? We're selling more animals to make the same amount of money we were in 2022, 2021, which is obviously not his fault. We were just spoiled by COVID, selling $10,000 DG clowns. Now we're selling 5 DG clowns, to make the same amount of money, which is fine. We're still making money. Obviously, none of us will be here if we're not making any money. But those numbers are because the market overall is growing. I don't know if he mentioned to you, but they're having 400 new Morph Market user accounts added a week for like an average of like 20 weeks in a row, where they're just having new accounts open every week.
That's a lot of growth. That's a lot of growth.
400 brand new accounts, though, only 2 to 3% will make up their first time purchases within the next 90 days. And that's the reason why he wanted to roll out buyer protection. The buyer protection thing, the reason for that is because he's like, man, why are so many people making accounts but not buying anything? It's because they're scared. And I'll be honest.
And rightfully so. I mean, that makes sense. There's a lot of horror stories out there, and there's a lot of, misinformation and bad practice that still happens.
What if I pay you and I don't get? I buy stuff on Etsy sometimes, and I paid a guy before and he just deleted his account and never got my stuff. So people are worried about that. So the $500 buyer protection, especially for a brand new buyer, is so important, so that we can get these new accounts to spend the money. But again, that record-breaking volume of sales is great, obviously. But now you're talking about 500,000 Morph Market accounts currently. There's 500,000 accounts. There's a little over 5,000 sellers, but there's 500,000 total accounts. So obviously our sales number is going to go up by volume. But the auctions, I always tell people, don't go on there thinking the auctions is like posting on eBay. But let me post an NG male. That's a waste of time. Why are you posting a single gene NG male?
Yeah, it needs to have some kind of value to even be worth doing it.
Right. You can open auctions right now. I guarantee you there'll be at least 10 animals that are under $100 animals, and they're posting it on there, and they're mad that they didn't go for $50 because who's looking at it going, yeah, I really need that NG male. Well, you can just go to a show next week and pick one up, not pay shipping.
Right.
So when you're using the auction, at least utilize it correctly and auction off decent animals, but don't auction off. I think the worst one I've ever seen someone auction off, again, I don't want to throw them out there like this, but you're auctioning off like really high-end project animals. I'm not sure you guys saw those, like a chocolate DG clown. Like, what are you doing auctioning off a chocolate DG clown? It just messaged me out for the same money anyways. So like stuff like that. But again, utilizing it correctly. If you guys don't follow Palm Street, their auction is not terrible. Obviously, I'm a Morph Market guy, but with their 10%, they take 10% off of your sale. Right. So it seems like a lot, but if you're auctioning off low price $50 to $100 animals, it really isn't a lot in comparison to the Morph Market auctions costing $25 per auction. Right. So if you're auctioning a $100 animal, you're only losing $10, well, plus 3% credit card processing fee and shipping, and all that. But anyways, the Palm Street charging per sale and Morph Market charging you per account. You just kind of have to break down by the price, by the volume of what you're doing, and see what's best for you.
Yeah, and I'm going to get to Will and Justin, but one comment what you just said, Bob. I think we did a podcast with Darian right around the time when they were discussing about adding auctions, and that was my one thing I told him was, sellers shouldn't put an investment animal on there, because if somebody just recently invested in that project with them, and then they see it go at auction at a significant lower price, you're probably going to lose a customer for life. Correct. And on top of that, you're probably going to lose credibility on high-end projects in your possession. So I do think there is a spot for certain animals on there. Each breeder can determine. But, yeah, when you go swinging with a DG chocolate clown right off the bat on that, I understand you need some money, but that's not really how you handle that kind of thing. No offense.
Yeah, I've used auctions as kind of like a measuring stick for where certain things should be. The only animal that I can think of that I put up that I would even consider high end, I put a DG Pied Het clown male on an auction, and it went for kind of what I thought it was worth. And I had 4 of them, so I put one up for auction and kind of used it as a measuring stick to see where it was, and sold the other 3 for that same price. But honestly, I'm kind of auctioned out. I didn't really use them much. I just I never look at them like myself personally.
I don't either personally. It's not. I would never buy from one.
Animal, I'm going to call one of you guys. I know what I'm looking for. I don't really browse auctions like that. And like Bob said, you go on the auctions and there's a calico bumblebee and it's at $112, and it's you're kind of like, really, this is what we're doing? And I get it. I think, Justin, I listened to a podcast you did recently, and you're saying something like if your only tool's a hammer, everything's a nail, that sort of thing. And I think a lot of people have turned auctions into that. Like, that's my only way to sell things, and I have to put everything on there. And that's just not true. I think we just need to put some more effort into other avenues, you know, because everything sells. Justin, you haven't used a single auction, have you?
Not yet, just out of just resisting. But not that I have any problem with them. I'm just personally, I want to be a brand who isn't known for that, you know. So
Sure.
we'll see if it's
fair enough,
pays off or not. You know, but the thing is a lot of times you can get them to the pet store for the same price, and you can have a relationship with somebody, and it doesn't go on the market. And that's what we end up doing. We have great relationships with pet stores, and we'll just knock all the heads off and sell as whatever codoms it is. You know, if it's a male sometimes, and that's just to me that's a better strategy versus you know, visually undermining the project that you would, you know, like to grow long term.
The only like thing to that is that it's easy to be down on auctions when the market's in a downturn. But had we have had auctions in 2018, 2019, 2020, what do you like if you had to put the first Pompei that you sold on auction? I think people would love auctions. You know, I think that would be
it would have been fun. I don't know if it
would be really fun.
Not, because it kind of forces the sale at a certain moment in time. That's the issue with auctions. For all their positives, unless it's a known commodity with a known value, you put something out there and it's like, well, is there more? It can't just be one person. It has to be at least two people who are willing to duke it out, who want this animal bad enough right now in this moment in time. That's the downside to auctions, because if it's a known commodity and we know there's 100 people in the world who want it, then auction can be a wonderful measuring stick for the value.
That's awesome,
yeah. But without that, like if you put a regular pied up, we all know that it'll go for about $100, right? I mean, that's just yes, actually.
Whether it's on an auction or a show or wherever.
Yeah, but that's the difference between a Morph Market auction and a Palm Street auction, because the Morph Market auction at least gives you some time with a customer base, 3 days to
that's valuable.
You know,
with 500,000 accounts potentially with eyes on it, right?
Right. But with Palm Street, you have 30 seconds to make that decision. You're gonna bid.
To me, it's that narrows that potential of the right buyers being in the market down to a tiny sliver. At that point, you better be a pet, because unless you have pet people, you're unlikely to find someone for the investment animal at that point.
That's why I haven't even logged on to the Palm Street. They call me about twice a week, or they called me yesterday actually to see why. And realistically, if I was producing a ton of blue-eye Lucy's and a ton of just pet stuff, I can see me sitting there for an hour and making a few $1,000. But you're not going to go on there and auction off an EG clown, and you know someone's going to buy as a pet for $300-400, and that just kills your entire project. You know, it just
I agree.
Different tools for different situations.
And Palm Street, and I think Joe was talking to me at your show about it, Bob. Fascination. He said is it kind of like a CVS, not a CVS. It's your personality goes a long way. Like you're interacting with the public while auctioning animals off. Is that what Palm Street is?
Kind of to a degree, but Palm Street works good for crested geckos because they're all pets to some degree. There's only like very few true genetics in crested geckos. So most of them are pets. So if you go on Palm Street right now, the majority of the lives are either plants or crested geckos. For ball pythons with true genetics and us having projects and stuff like that, it doesn't work very well. And I'll be honest, between us five talking right now, none of us would do well on Palm Street.
Yeah, it would make sense for me.
None of us are sitting there yelling at the chats, you guys got to bid this up, blah, blah, blah. This is, all this stuff. We're not going to do that. None of us are going to do that. Right?
No.
Do well on it. I'll just throw that out there. Because I've been watching these guys, and these guys were like literally in your face yelling at you. You guys need to bid. Oh my God, I'm losing my ass on this. Blah 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 blah. And again, I watch other things similar to this. I watch shoes.
It's like, I'm gonna be living under a bridge if you don't bid on this right now.
High pressure, man. That's my child right there.
Just light up all your kids in the background. That's perfect. Just like look at these children here. You are taking food off their plate. Well, I am going to look into it more. I mean, I am curious. I have heard a little bit about it, but we've always had a lot of different auction sites that have kind of come through. And I mean, I thought the Reptile Ring was interesting, but it was exclusive. Ben Rennick was lucky enough to work on there. After he passed, Jeremy Stone, I think, bought the website up from Mike Wilbanks soon afterwards. And I did work on there a little bit, and I think one thing that Ben said was a huge incentive for working on there is an overseas buyer through Mike Wilbanks' contacts will buy an animal from you, and then they'll buy 15 more because they want to send them all over at the same time. So that one auction item might end up turning into a large group that'll go to that one customer. So again, having Mike Wilbanks' contacts in there, I think helped that website. But today, I don't think a reptile ring could just pop up by any Joe Schmo and it be successful.
I don't either. You just want to have the following. The following is the hard part.
If you only have 50 people watching the auction,
Yeah.
35 of them aren't interested in that project, and 8 of them already have one. Like you said, there has to be, for an auction to work, there has to be at least 2 people bidding on it, or else it's just one person, here's my lowest offer, and you have to sell it.
Reptile Ring was out during a different market. It was out during the $5,000 banana phase. I almost bought my first banana on Reptile Ring. It was a banana pinstripe. It was $3,500, and I almost bought it off of Reptile Ring. This is 2012, 13. When Reptile Ring was big, we didn't have single genes selling for $8 and $25, at shows. Everything had value because, again, this is early in the stages of breeding. We didn't have 4-gene clowns back then for sale on auction. So I think that was a different era of our industry for that. And it worked because it was that different era.
No, some of these things come around at the right time and they're successful. Other times they come up, it just doesn't work out. Like you said, that was a right time, right person, and it was successful. Even again, the Ben Siegel auctions, you had him run around the industry, a couple of people run around the industry buying lots of animals, which was benefiting a lot of breeders, and then he was benefiting.
Good question. Is that still going on? Is Ben Siegel auction still up?
Still up. Yeah, Ben Siegel auctions.
That's wild.
Yeah. And I think even for a while there, when Facebook outlawed auctions, I think that one was allowed to continue functioning for a little while. I do think there's a website around it. They might have changed the name a little bit, but it is still functioning.
Interesting.
So you didn't even know it was out there. It's still killing it.
I didn't. I used to see it on social media all the time, and I just haven't I've not seen anything advertised in a long time.
Yeah, that's fair. So something a little silly, guys, and me and Bob have talked about it a little bit. I think Chad. World of ball pythons, world's first. You want to bring back world's first again? You want to make world's first popular?
It would happen every day. Yes. It got so ridiculous.
No, you don't want to badge
No, now more than ever before, just because it's way too fast paced.
Yeah, the world's way too big now.
The world's too big for
I think we're all sitting on our high tower saying that. I think there's so many little breeders who would love to just say
they would. Yeah, you're right. They would.
I don't want to take that away from them by saying it's not special anymore.
So maybe just we're snobs and we don't want to be a part of it, but everybody else is like, hell yeah.
I think so.
Yeah, maybe so.
I think it's a big
because I remember posting stuff on there and I did love it.
Yeah.
I'm like, hell yeah, I got my name on the world. Yeah, it is cool. I loved it at the time. Let everybody else do it too.
I just say the world's too big is because if I post something and then I get accepted as on World of Ball Pythons, right? I'll be like, oh man, this is the first whatever. And then very next week, Justin's gonna post a video showing an adult on eggs.
Yeah, and it's a white lace.
Right.
Hey, I'll leave all the Huffman combos free though. Those are wide open.
Oh, good man. Yeah, that was always Ben's joke with World of Ball Pythons was you go on there at night and see all these worlds first and be like, I made that 3 years ago, I made that 4 years ago, I made that 5 years ago.
And that would happen all day.
Yeah, but like, you guys said, not something to shit on because, somebody new in the hobby, like to make something new, especially, when you're brand new, that feels good.
Oh yeah.
That feels
I mean, it still does today because the new shit's still significant, especially the new genes get together. Like DG puzzle combos are going to be very significant coming out. Each gene added almost. I feel like it is. In any project like that.
No, for sure. It'd be cool to bring an old thing back, and it'd just be funny to see Bob Vu, posting his world first and just hashtag, man. I just think we can make it trendy again is my whole point. It really benefits his website, which Darian will hate because that is a for sale website now. But, I just thought it'd be funny to bring a thing like that back.
You can sell on World of Ball Pythons?
Yeah, there's only a couple guys.
I didn't even know that website was still active
on there.
I didn't either.
Yeah.
Wow.
I think there's some ads from like 3 years ago on it, though.
Jason Amos,
like Reptiles magazine ad.
I'm selling there. No.
Yeah.
Justin's been said that's where all his sales been on order ball.
Justin's like, shh.
Hey, the secret weapon.
You
I don't
need
even
to
know if
link
it's
it in the
active. I
club.
think well, the ads are like 2 years old, and I don't think they're even being updated. But there is a little sales side on there.
Yeah, no, and there, like I said, I know a couple people that are on there, and here's the reality: when there's only a couple people posting, they're pretty much going to take most of the money if people are seeing the ads on there. And I don't know how hard they're pushing that. If the owner of World of Ball Python's still out there, can you take a picture of that World of Ball Python's tattoo you got on your leg that one time and tag me in it? I want to know you're still alive out there. Much respect for that, by the way. Bob, how many guys have tattooed their logo on, or your logos on their body now?
There's more than 10 of my Balls tattoo, and then there's 2 Southeast Reptile Expo tattoos out there.
Yeah, I made a big mistake on that Southeast one in that pelvic area. I stared at that like it was a woman for 5 minutes. Yeah, I just didn't know. It looked like I just didn't think it.
Sorry, Dave.
I'm sorry for me too, man. It's, I saw the finger tattoos remind me a little bit about Lucy's hand tattoos. I thought it was her for a second, man.
Oh, man. Here we go.
Yeah, no, that was something. Okay, we'll tell her time.
There's got to be a Canova tattoo out there somewhere, right?
Huh?
Zero
that I know of. I'm just not
Dave.
that popular.
No,
There's no Walker Church tattoos.
Business. That's why.
Help me out. I feel a little rude for not remembering his name offhand, but the gentleman down in Florida, I believe his logo is orange and black, and he has a lot of different companies tattooed on his legs. He hosts a party every year down there. He's like a stunt man, I believe. Does stuff in the movie stuff. He was in the Sunsets. You guys don't know what I'm talking about. He was Arlington guy all the time. I feel bad if he's listening. You can call me out on this. I'm shitty with names, but
Arlington?
It's an Arlington guy, but he has like USARK and like multiple tattoos on his leg. If there's a Canova tattoo or a JK tattoo, that guy's got it. I'm just going to put that out there.
The JKR tattoo.
I still know about it.
Yeah, the spider, I mean, the snake
it's cooler looking.
silhouette JKR tattoo. I think that's more likely to be out there.
More likely.
Yeah. And again, I'm going to keep this as PG-13 as possible, but that one T-shirt, Justin, that's kind of like the silhouette of a snake, but for a pervert like me, I see something else when I look at that T-shirt. So if I was ever going to get a tattoo,
I heard that a lot.
Yeah, but no, you killed it, man. It's a perfect shirt. It's subtle, kind of like my logo.
Perverts.
Yeah, see, the perverts see it. Normal people can't see things like that. It's like those things where you cross your
both
eyes.
worlds. Yeah, you can crush both markets.
There's at least one of these tattoos out there.
Well, just one.
There is.
The
only one.
It's so hairy. It's so hairy. You can't even see the thing anymore,
You
man.
can fix that, Dave. We'll fix it at Tinley. We'll take care of it.
I usually trim it down for Daytona. I like to keep it tight for Daytona. Daytona's gonna be good this year. Justin, are you gonna be at Daytona this year?
I hope to visit if I'm around. Yes.
Okay, don't let Bob scare you. It's really a wonderful place.
I have a fantastic show right in my own backyard now. I don't think I need to be traveling all the way out of Florida anymore.
I moved.
He has a point. He has a point.
Okay, I moved it closer to his house so he can vend. He don't need to do these other shows. I'm happy. I don't need to go anywhere anymore. I brought my kids to a show for the first time, and my 6-year-old son went to his first reptile show at Bob's show.
That's awesome.
It was amazing.
That's awesome.
He was amazing. Yeah.
It was awesome. Well, that's a good segue, man. So second generation breeders. Unfortunately, me, Will, and Bob are all built the same. Our pullout game is strong because every time we lean back, we fall out. So the odds are against us right from the beginning. But Chad and Justin, you guys are family men. Are your children showing interest in possibly maybe
no
the family business someday?
No, I wish. My son comes to shows, the local shows. He's helped at a few, and he likes that. And he's only 13. He's not social enough to really interact with customers. That's like real weird for him. So he likes to hang out with dad and stay in a hotel and go out of town. But as far as like the actual workings of it, no, I don't think either one of them are interested in it.
Okay. And Justin, I know your kids are all showing interest going to school. Anything?
Yeah, I'm 0 for 5, I think. They all enjoyed it during a certain age group, and then they grew out of it. right? My 6-year-old right now loves it, but every one of them loved it at 6 years old.
Absolutely.
There comes a point when dad's just kind of a weird guy they don't want to tell their friends about, and that's them. Now when they go out and they have to work at a fast food restaurant, flipping burgers and things, the snake business might start looking really good again. That's my
Yeah.
hope, but I'm not there yet.
Some of us have to learn the hard way.
How many second generation breeders are there? I mean, because you'll talk to Eugene Bassett on Thursday. His kids don't want anything to do with it because they've seen how much hard work he's had to go through his entire career.
Kevin Boa and Brad.
Yeah.
Kevin, and
That'd be the only. That's the only one I can think of.
Well, you got
Summer's snakes. She's doing the Pituophis stuff. She's she TSK. I think so. Yeah,
they have their own
their
business
kid.
now.
Yeah.
How about the Herp and Harbins?
Harbin.
I was going to mention them. Yeah.
Steve Sykes, his kids are showing a lot of interest. It seems doing a lot of traveling with them. Junior from JMG Reptiles, is second generation.
Yeah, he absolutely is.
Yeah,
a handful, like a handful. You would think there would be more, but a handful.
I think most people just don't want to do what their parents did their whole life. Like
yes.
My dad's a vet. I would have zero interest in doing that. It's just it's not for me.
Yeah, you could be helping a lot of people and animals instead. You breed ball pythons. I like that.
Yeah. yeah.
No, I don't think they realize what they're missing.
Are ball pythons gone in the wild now? They don't exist anymore in the wild.
Oh God.
This guy from Angola, was it, that was telling us that they're gone, that we shouldn't be doing this. We should be giving them away.
We should bring them back to Africa, actually.
Okay.
Oh, you just send it back. Okay.
Yeah, I could give some normals back.
I got a box of stuff I'll send back. Yeah.
Just checking if you guys have heard that. Heard the rumor.
Repopulate them. Next thing you know, an Enchi will come out of the wild and come back, and
a new gene.
Yeah.
No, I mean, I'm assuming this is a joke, right? I'm just not picking up on the sarcasm here.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's one of Will's
probably.
Homies. Yeah.
Oh, stop.
Will's neighbor.
Yeah.
No, that's fair.
In fairness, he's not truly Canadian. He's from France, so I'm gonna put that one with Jean-Francois.
Jean-Francois is not French. He makes that very clear.
Oh well, now I know that.
Yeah.
What's that else? So auction stuff, man. Bob, you got that show coming up with Ty Park. All charity, all the money's going to go back to a good cause. The Maryland show back in the day, Chad, do you remember that one? What was that one?
Man, I still do it here and there. It's not good, but I still show up. I like some of the people a lot, and it's like 4 hours away. So sometimes I'll still show up, but it's not like it was at all.
No, but what was the name of that show back in the day?
The Mars, Mid-Atlantic Reptile Show.
Yeah, I think that's the only other show I've ever heard of where there's actually something being given back, and I love that, by the way. Bob, I tell you all the time, we're trying to think of new, clever ways to give back if we could find. With the Morph Market auctions, now this is a Darien move, but do you think you could talk everybody doing the auctions into 1 month giving 5% back of that sale to a charity organized by Darien over the course of that month, something different every year, just somebody or something in need in the hobby?
No. However, I can definitely get Darien to match 5% of it and donate it to something. He would definitely be willing to do that, but I just don't think as a collective, especially in a down market. In an up market, dude, when Dallas froze over, we raised 30 grand in a week. I raised 30 grand doing auctions.
Right, your own auction thing. Yeah.
You know how long it took me to raise 10 grand for the hurricanes? It took me pleading and auctions and all kind of stuff to raise 10 grand for the hurricane victims. But for during the when Texas froze over, I made a page, threw some auctions up, and we did 30 grand in a week. It's just really quick. But on a down market, getting people to loosen it up and donate more, it's very tough. So even with Ty's show being 100% nonprofit, because he owns a nonprofit, so we're able to use that. Again, nothing is set in stone. We haven't talked enough about it, but even using a nonprofit status and all this, it's still going to be pulling teeth to get people to donate. I'll be honest. In a down market.
Well, and again, I know Darian's listening because he loves our work. But So like on Ship Your Reptiles or Reptiles Basics, when you place an order, you get to the end and it says round up for charity or put in number for charity. If that was a feature that he added to the auctions where people, as they're putting their ads up, could say, yes, I'd like to put 5% of this into cause.
Or even on, I mean, that's another option. Even on shipping, remember, like Ship Your Reptiles used to do it. Like you could check a box to donate to USARK, like $1 each shipment or whatever. Dude, that'd be another option too. That was an easy box to check, $1 per shipment. That was easy for me to do.
Me and MJ got into this about 3 or 4 years ago, where he basically called me a bum. Okay, so I know MJ, you're listening. So, and I explained myself. Okay, so for a company to put something like that, again, Home Depot does it. All these other companies do it. You want to donate to fight child hunger, whatever. That's $1. So it doesn't sound like a lot, but at the end of the day, Home Depot is going to have $100 million that they're going to make a big donation off, and they're going to get $100 million write-off. I'm not saying
they'll take the credit.
Right. Yeah. They're not going to do, these companies, Reptiles Express, whatever, are not doing this so that they can get it, just so that they get that. It is a great avenue for a new breeder to be like, oh, this is one way I can donate $1 per shipments to USARK. But for and I also explain this, MJ, for an established breeder, let's say, where I just rip a check to USARK myself, which I do every year, or I spend $5,000 in an auction, which we all here spend money on the auctions all the time. As a breeder, now we get our own tax write-offs from USARK, being a nonprofit organization. So basically, we get to make a big donation, and we still get to get some type of tax break. It's double dipping. Instead of me just donating $1 every time I ship an animal, which at the end of the year, I want to donate $200. And again, he got on to me. He's like, it's just $1, bro. It's not that big of a deal. It adds up, man. And as any operating business, every tax write-off counts. So yes, it's a good route for them to do that. And it's a great route for Morph Market. Obviously, he's going to have hundreds of thousands of dollars at the end of the year to donate to USARK and get a big tax write-off also. So Darian, if you're listening to this, it's a great way for you to save money on your taxes and get people to donate. However, as seasoned breeders that already donate to USARK or other organizations, it's not really beneficial for us to do that.
There's a more beneficial way is actually just taking all that money and giving it yourself.
Right.
Yeah. It benefits you and them versus just them.
Exactly.
Yeah.
No, for sure. I've always, I want to think of new ways to kind of do stuff, especially USARK based this year. I had a conversation with Phil Goss, and this was probably about 4 years ago, and I'm sure things have changed, but memberships are just not really a thing on USARK. Like, there's just not a lot of people that are members anymore. And, you guys probably remember back in the day, you go to Ralph Davis's website and there'd be a gold emblem or, crest there saying, I am a USARK gold member. Do you think if we created something that would have to be something that would happen organically, but, when you get your membership for USARK, if they give you a watermark to put on your profile picture for your business pages?
I mean, I would put a trophy on my table. If they gave me a trophy, I would put that on my table. It'd be cool.
Well, they do that in Morph Market anyways. But
yeah, they do that on Morph Market. Yeah. But again, still getting back to memberships, if you take us to the side, I'm sure he'll give you an honest answer. And it's much lower than what you would think, considering the size of the hobby. Even you talking about how there's 500,000 users on Morph Market, the percentage of those guys that are actually USARK members is pretty minuscule, I guess is the way of putting it.
But why do they care? Out of those 500,000 users, 400,000 of them own one leopard gecko or a ball python. Why do they care? Why do they care if big monitors get banned or crocodilians get banned? They own a leopard gecko. Literally, they bought it at Costco. They do not care. But the fact that we only have 1,500 USARK members is a concern, right? When we have 10,000 people in a Burmese Python Facebook group, but we only have 1,500 USARK members. Remember that we had a big USARK push about 2-3 years ago. I even did a speech in Daytona about it on how we can raise more money. USARK membership is $40, and we don't think we can get 1,000 members to join. Up these people who own iguanas, tegus, retics, and burms should be USARK members. But realistically, why would anyone that own one leopard gecko that they bought at Petco? Why would they even care?
No, charities. Sometimes it's hard to get people to even donate $1 for something. So I understand that, but I wouldn't give up on the idea that there isn't ways. And like I said, simply the watermark. If that started catching on, like if Justin Kobylka's watermark on his Facebook page, his Instagram, and his Twitter X all have the gold seal of USARK, people might be like, I want to do that because he's doing it. That's kind of the point I'm getting at.
That might help. There's also you're gonna need a lot of like stolen valor kind of situations too, where people just adding the seal, having not donated too.
We will police those guys and call them out publicly. They will be pantsed in front of everybody.
You'll need pants. You'll need access to the donation logs and everything.
Yeah, Morph Market is integrated with USARK to where as soon as you pay for a gold membership or platinum membership, you automatically get the badge on your Morph Market seller page. So something like that, if they were to integrate that to something else, but yeah, you'd need their database.
They should add that to their validated sellers program.
Yeah,
you have the badge, as long as we're doing stuff.
Just
I thought there was like it was on your page on Morph Market.
Oh, it is.
It is.
No, it is.
Right on the main page, it pops up.
If you want, if maybe they already all are, but I'm just saying if you were to make it so that was one of the parts of it getting the check mark, it'd just be another way of saying
order to get it.
Not only am I a good person and I do good transactions, I also am protecting this. Just another level of support.
Yeah, but like I said, not that you have to pressure people in the charity, but sometimes we just all need a little nudge. And you guys in the
pushback though, I can see some pushback because I know breeders that are anti-USARK mainly because they are conservationist breeders. Again, they're breeding ball pythons or crescent gecko, leopard geckos, but they're very anti. You should be able to keep whatever you want, right? Not every American needs to keep a crocodile or a burm or retic. So I can also see the pushback on that the anti-USARK people. Again, I'm not one of those people, but we have to see that there is going to be some pushback.
No, 100% on that. And that's kind of like when I mentioned, like, donations that could come out of an auction, cause. Not so much, hey, this is only USARK, but a cause for the industry that benefits breeders in the industry. Like you said, when things go wrong, it's not always easy to get people to help. Like you said, with the hurricane relief you were working on, it was a lot harder than when Texas had its freeze over. Also, I think that freeze over was around the time that the industry was that just before COVID or during COVID that happened?
It was during COVID.
Right. Yeah, it's right around then.
Right. And we were all rolling it. Everybody was doing very well. We were all buying all new cages, new racks, new animals, and it was easier for people to donate and help. Where post that, with the hurricanes, people were just a little tighter than what they were then.
Yep.
Let me bring something up really quick.
Chad, what color is your mustache?
What's that?
Chad?
What color is your mustache?
Dude, it's like 4 colors. It's like gray now, and like it's kind of like a reddish blonde.
Okay, because
my beard is like I got a kind of a reddish ass beard when I grow it out. Okay, but now it's going gray. So
yeah.
So
I think I'm a redhead. I'm a heterozygous for redhead. That's what that is.
Yeah.
Hypo, buddy. You're a hypo.
Yeah.
I was at a bar in Chicago one time, and I was explaining to people genetics, and I explained it inbreeding in Ireland. And after a while, the hypo gene became so dominant, being a recessive, it became everywhere. A woman.
Are redheads considered hypomelanistic? Is that what that? I guess it is.
You talk to Jeff Senior; they're hypomelanistic, and he would love to make a sun glow someday if he can just find the right couple. That's the long game, man. You want to talk about the long game and double heads? I mean, that's the long.
Find him an albino, dude. That's awesome.
She kind of.
I think the ginger gene is like anti-Asian, right? You can't make an Asian ginger. Is that
I don't know, man. I've never seen it. That'd be wild.
Because it was on South.
It's like making a super dwarf.
Yeah,
it's like making a super dwarf. You have to do the pairing and then start weeding out the Irish genes to as close to the full Asian as possible.
Yeah, talking about a red super dwarf right now, yes. A hypo super dwarf. We're talking
a super dwarf Asian.
Well, I don't want to say that to you, but we have a lot of midget wrestling.
That's a line. That's a line breeding project. That's what that is.
This is the part that MJ cuts out.
Yeah, this is where we lose.
Yes, this is where it goes south every time. Like we start getting bored, and then just our own imaginations take over.
Yeah.
See, here's what I decided to do before we had this conversation. I was just going to follow Justin's lead, and he's the one who brought up little people. So I think this is.
Here we go. Yeah, we can go any direction.
I was talking about retics.
Oh no, you.
Oh well, in that case,
fair enough.
They're in Southeast Asia, aren't they?
Yeah.
That's true. Okay, I see your play there. I get it.
Good save.
I won't talk about the other thing anymore then, because you're not.
Maybe we'll keep this segment in now.
Yeah, no, we keep everything in. That's the problem.
We're still clean, guys.
We're super clean.
Yeah. I'm proud of y'all.
I'm proud of us too. So, you know, you guys all hear the people talking in the industry that things are coming to an end, because we do always have our doom and gloom sector of the industry. You know, and you guys can push back too, because I know you guys don't feel that way, but my pushback is this. I remember when I discovered the industry for the first time and how obsessed I became about it. And that's why 22 years later, I'm still in the industry. You cannot tell me that the love and passion for this hobby is going to go away. Now, we, again, might lose some people, and I do think that losing people is important in a sense, because the money's a little less spread out. People do a little bit better, and when people on the outside hear that, they start jumping in, and then it gets a little saturated again. Not uncommon, but this whole, oh, it's coming to an end, everything else, I'm sure you guys all agree, it's impossible because it's just too exciting to ever stop.
I generally look at that as it's coming to an end for them.
Yeah.
You know?
Yeah, and it does. It's going to come to an end for everybody at some point in their life, and some people just last longer than others. I never got into this as a business, and I know a lot of y'all did, and we all make money on this now, but like I've always done it part-time as a hobby, and I can still do that today if I wanted to, you know, but it's just grown so much. And if you're 5 years in and you have expectations to live on it, and like, it's kind of unrealistic unless you can really put that much into it off the rip and you really have marketed yourself well. But it's unrealistic expectations with all these people have bought in my opinion.
Yeah, I tend to agree with that. I think, you know, Mark Manick has said something before that it's kind of stuck with me. He said, "Grow into business, not go into business."
Yes.
And that's like, that kind of was like, yeah, you know, like just
makes sense.
When this first started, I was in university, and I actually got my first snakes from Mark. I got one from a pet store, and then came home and Googled ball python and was like, why doesn't mine look like that? You know, I want one that looks like that. And it just happened to be ballpython.ca. So I went down to Mark's place and got my first couple snakes and bred those and sold those, and just kind of it was really hobby based for probably the first 5 years, and then it started to really roll. And you know, I think trying to go full time with this within 5 years, I mean, you don't even really know what you're doing yet.
No, and I just feel like grasping it all and really understanding the animals on and able to do it on a scale like that, it's not easy. And if you grow too fast, that could be super overwhelming. And then the unrealistic expectation that you can sell all of it. It's just that's a whole nother thing that I even had to learn. Like I didn't come from sales or marketing or any of that. So, and I'm not great at it now, but like I've had to learn a ton. And that's, if you're not able to take a step back and like adjust what you're doing and make it work, you're going to have to just close the doors, man, or just make it a hobby only.
Yeah.
Have you noticed those doom and gloom guys are usually obviously first few years in, but generally only do one species? Like they went in and did ball pythons, right? Because that's where the money is, or was, or whatever it is to them. And they went in with the already unrealistic expectations. I'm going to be Justin. I'm going to be the next big thing. Or I saw Miguel's video or whatever. And I think they don't even have a true passion for reptiles. And I can tell the guys that don't have a true passion.
That's the difference. That's the big difference.
They, first of all, one of the factors of I can tell if someone don't have a true passion for reptiles, only thing that excites them is ball python morphs. No other species is cool or anything like that.
They're not going to pick the garter snake up in the yard and think it's cool.
Like, why would I? Like, it's just a snake that crossed the yard. I do that again. Like, I don't expect everyone to be herpers out there and want to go flip a rock everywhere they go. But I travel honestly just to do that. I sent I'll be honest. I think I might have scared Justin off with our itinerary. Mary sent the itinerary to Justin of our Japan trip.
High intensity herping.
Yeah, Justin's like, yeah, maybe. But really, we plan to go to Okinawa and herp for 5 freaking days there. And, you know, like, again, I'm already traveling across the world. I'm going to herp. I'm going to flip rocks. And I feel like for all of us here, every single one of us in here keep more than a few species, you know, and breed a few of them. Just the curiosity. And we've all seen Justin's video from 2010, or I think, Justin, your YouTube videos maybe pre-2010. It was like, hey, I'm just
99.
dorm room or something. It's like, hey, this is my scorpion and all this stuff. But we're all in some way a nerd.
We all came from that, I would think.
Oh, for sure.
And that keeps us in, even when the money's not good. To be honest, like my first few years, I didn't make any money. We were in the negative.
No, dude. If I could get gas money to Daytona and if I could, I'd have to go to Daytona broke, sell snakes to get home on the reg.
Yeah.
That was just how I lived, like, because it was a hobby, and my hobby had to pay for the trip. Yeah. When I worked another job and paid my bills, but if I, the snake stuff had to cover its own. I had to pay for all that with it.
Yeah. And I think that's what keeps guys like us in, and the guys that, again, look at Brock Wagner, man. He made millions of dollars selling bananas. I mean, this wasn't the guy. He was the guy for so long. He could definitely retired already.
For sure. He loves it, though, dude. He loves reptiles.
You really
for sure. He fucking loves crest. He just likes it like we do still. A little bit, maybe a little less nerdy than we are, but he likes that shit too.
Yeah, you really gotta love this to stay in. I think that's where all the doom and gloom guys, they went in looking at price tags, bought all these ARS racks thinking, oh, well, I'm just gonna crank out animals, and they just don't have a passion for it.
Yeah. No.
Yeah, I mean, there's an artistry too, though. I think the artistry comes from passion, right? Because you love it, and you want to make your mark. Again, that whole world's first thing, it starts with that. Definitely doesn't end with that. But you can't go out and just buy the paints and expect to be a wonderful artist, because your art's gonna suck for a while, right?
Takes time.
Gonna suck.
Yeah,
and you're gonna have to work through all those times when nobody wants to buy your painting, no one wants to buy your art, nobody's interested. And get to the place where your skill level gets to that point, and it's gonna be slim for a while, right? But to say there's no money in art would be just as ridiculous as saying there's no money in ball pythons. It's just
absolutely
really what you do with it.
Yeah,
great analogy.
Duct taped against the wall, sold for $3 million recently. Talking about artwork.
Oh, like an art thing? Yeah.
Yeah, you know what? I don't know how inhumane this is, but maybe someone should bring a banana ball python and tape it to the wall at the next show and put a real high price on it. And afterwards, they can just duct tape it off and put it in a deli cup, kind of like how that guy ate the banana afterwards.
That'd be a good Chat GPT illustration request.
Oh, yeah.
I got a guy. Yeah, I'll make that happen. I tried doing that for this podcast, but my guy didn't come through. And I'm just not going to download Chat GPT. I'm too afraid of technology. I mean, you guys saw the dumb look in my face while I was just trying to figure out where my browser was on the computer before we got started. Yeah, but no, I appreciate it. The harassment was good. It really motivated me for the episode. It really broke my spirit, to be honest with you. Well,
the episode I think went great, Dave. All problems aside.
Well, no, it's always a great episode because it's great people and we're all knowledgeable. We know the hobby, and like I said, every one of you guys' businesses are different, and we were talking about that earlier. Like, personalities really reflect on your business, and Bob's insurance background reflects on his team and the way he manages things. Justin, you went to school, for business and a couple other things I'm sure I'm forgetting, reflects on the way you developed everything. And really, I think back to the early days of the rock and roll lifestyle that was this hobby, the Ralph Davises and the Pete Calls, getting drunk at every show and beating the fuck out of people, and just like the madness of the early days. And these guys were making.
Didn't it make sense though that the reptile world would be that way though? Like, it made perfect sense.
It did. But now the development of where this hobby has gone, and again, Justin, Bob, everybody has a lot to do with this. There's a professionalism that is brought
big
to the
time.
table. We're not getting the painters and the roofers and the construction guys coming with money.
We do in Pennsylvania. We get all that, and the East Coast shows we get all that.
100%.
I'm just joking.
We have pharmacists, we have lawyers, we have a lot of people from a lot of different backgrounds. That because this looks like it's running like an actual business, it looks like it's investable. And honestly, I've said this on a lot of podcasts, and I don't know if I've said this to you, Justin, but, if I made the Pompei 10 years before you made the Pompei, I would not have been as successful at the Pompei as you were. I think the timing of the project and my expectations of what I thought that animal was worth might have been a little bit lower, where you had a higher expectation on that project for a good reason. That thing was a fucking banger, and it changed the way a lot of people did their breeding for the last 5 years. But, different stages in the
100%.
hobby, different values, everything changes. And I'm going to ask you a Pompei question while we're on this, and we're going to do a couple more things. We're going to wrap this up around the 2-hour mark. But Tell me about the Pompei process. Was that like accidental in a sense where you just couldn't really imagine it was going to do what it did and you just hit it right off the bat, or did you build that up over 5 or 6 clutches?
So that year was the first year that I would ever had a chance to make a red stripe clown. I had a couple years before I had made a red stripe yellow belly spot nose het clown, and I was so excited about it because it's a very pretty animal. And red stripe, it was so underrated, and almost nobody had them, but nobody cared either. They could get them for cheap. So I had a hat, and I knew, that at that point we learned that if it looked good in clown, it could be great. And so I'm like, maybe red stripe is it. Maybe red stripe is it. And I made, probably 4 months before I had made the first red stripe clown. And I was like, it's okay, but no one's gonna run out and buy red stripes from this thing. It's just, it wasn't as cool as a leopard clown or a spot nose clown, right? So I was like, all right. Then we made what was the next one? A spot nose red stripe clown. I was like, I barely changed the spot nose. This might be a complete dud. I might have wasted my entire season. And then I bred it to the black that same male, red stripe yellow belly spot nose het clown, to a black pastel clown. And that was the very first black pastel clown ever made. And we had actually made the first one, 4 years before or whatever. And that pairing, I had 6 eggs, and I just got super lucky because I couldn't make another one for like 6 more clutches after that. But I hit it on the very first clutch, first try for that pairing. And that goes back to our conversation earlier about having the collection, right? If you have the animals on the shelf, you can get the leverage to hit something great. If I hadn't hatched that animal 3 years before the Pompei, who knows who would have hit it at what point, right? But I just got lucky. I hit it the first try, and it was a boy. Again, extremely hard. It would be a 1 in 32 animal. Extremely hard, and I got very lucky. And if I hadn't hit that, I would have put the red stripe clowns out and been like, "Hey guys, here's red stripe clowns if you want one." Yeah, it wouldn't have ever
Right to the auction.
gone anywhere. It changed everything, right? Again, there's an element of luck, but there's the element of just being in it for a while, having the good animals, being willing to hold them back when you could have made good money for them, and then when the right things hit, they hit.
But it also goes past that too, because like the way you did it, like the way that you showed it but didn't tell anybody what it was, and you had the whole industry guessing.
The reveal and the marketing of it was genius.
Had I have hit that, I would have posted it on my hand in my incubator, and then it would have just gone into the rack and disappeared.
They would have vermiculite on its eye.
This big production thing. So
Ralph Davis is my inspiration on that. The way he did with the flatline really inspired me. The idea that you could show something and leave such a hunger to know about it.
That's what everybody was talking about then, man. Yeah. It's such a big moment.
Yeah. Outside of Luke Martin, does anybody even know what the flatline clown is to this day?
It's simpler than you think. Yeah, it's like Blade, Super Blade NC Clown or something.
Yeah. I have its sister, actually. Still have her.
Good on you.
It honestly just makes really, really nice enchies. But I don't know.
I bought Davis, and it wasn't in the collection.
Interesting. So I remember
someone needs to do a remake of that exact video. Like
just walking around the racks and stuff. Yeah.
Find the same track, walk around, just do it exactly the same length of time, open it up, and of course it wouldn't be the flatline, but it'd be something else. But it'd be such a good homage for those who know. It'd be really fun. Yeah.
There's probably not that many that know anymore. That was a while ago.
Man,
the industry's pretty young.
Some of his older videos on like the Super Phantom stuff, and I was like, man, no one's playing with this still. And there was some cool stuff there. So I don't know.
Yeah.
I don't know. I think there's a lot of like forgotten things that definitely have a future.
We keep seeing it over and over. I mean, why not? Like, I don't know that I want to play with Phantom, but it could be. I never thought Chocolate and all that other stuff would come back either.
Yeah,
even Red Stripe. Red Stripe, I never thought would come back. That was one that underwhelmed me at first.
Special became good.
Special too.
In Clown, so there's no reason why Phantom can't do good in another combo.
Yeah.
Lace. Yeah.
Well, you guys are definitely reinventing the way we do it, and You talk about that accidental, and I hate that I'm even bringing this up because it was a spider combo, but I think it was around 2017 or 18. After I started helping out with Ben's stuff, I was pursuing the campfires because I love the campfire stuff he was making. It was just such a neat little combo. And like I said, it had that mystery for a 3
Great
gene
name,
combo.
too.
Nobody could. Oh, the best name. But I had that one Tinley. I showed up, and I had what I was calling the bonfire, which was that black pastel spider calico inchi. And you guys came by, Ozzy came by, and it just brought this red to the side of the animal I've never really seen in a ball python before. And that was the cool thing about that was the mystery until we found out that inchi was allelic with black pastel and cinnamon. And then it seemed like I was keeping the secret because of the allelic story behind it for some people. But I enjoyed that. But here's my pushback, assholes. Why have none of you guys made campfire clowns or puzzles or anything? You guys have known the ingredients. What's wrong with you guys?
That's your thing. Like, I'm not stepping on your toes. That would be rude. That's your job.
I am working on that, but it's all going to be, the goal is white-based campfire clowns. All my ingredients I've been adding up over the last couple of years is to go that route over DG. But, that was just one of those things that in that time, I thought it would have been adopted and put into some, like, bigger combos, and nobody did it.
I'll step on your toes. I'm trying to hit a puzzle campfire this year.
There you go.
So, again, also there's an odds thing there. I've tried to make them before. I didn't hit it with calico.
And it's an allelic combo, so it's not the easiest thing to make.
Yeah, and you don't want to go the allelic combo back to the black pastel either, because then you go into the supers, and you want like super enchi, okay, but super black pastel you probably don't want. So it gets tough.
Yeah. So we're gonna do this as our little wrap up, but Justin, your comment about the homage to the old school stuff, just kind of going back and almost like repeating a little bit in a sense the way the video was made. I remember I was doing these dumb T-shirts back then that never caught on. I wanted to do a line of paint job. It was called Paint Jobs, and it was under my Morph Graphics apparel line that I never did anything with. And once a year, I wanted to bring a new paint job and put it as like front and center. I think the last one that I did that didn't print was George Sampson's Orange Dream Mojave funny combo he made like a decade ago that was all faded and looked unlike anything else. But I contacted Ralph Davis about that flatline because I wanted that flatline on that T-shirt. He wouldn't send me a full body picture. He would send me the tail, the head, or the middle. He wouldn't give me a complete one because he didn't even really want people guessing what it could have been. I thought that was cool, but I was kind of sad.
Different level of secret. Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
And back then, there wasn't that many genes floating around. So, if you stumbled across something, someone else could do it pretty easily. Yeah, exactly. Yeah. But okay, how about this, guys? I appreciate this because honestly, I want to do a couple of these a year. Justin sitting with this one means a lot to me. We had picked you a few months ago to come in and do this. Just took us a few extra months to get it done. William, I appreciate you coming back. I know we flew a little close to the moon for you last time, but never again.
That was the trial run.
That was rough.
We learned, man. We learned. I saw the look on your face. Hey, I was as uncomfortable as you were. But no, honestly, I love the opportunity of doing this for a big show because I want to give something for somebody to listen to on the way. And honestly, this conversation, I hope, helps people make better decisions on what they do at Tinley, whether it's on behind the table or in front of the table. So, if anybody wants any last words, you're more than welcome. If not, honestly, guys, I appreciate it.
Man, I'm just excited for Tinley, and I'll see everybody there. I'm just thinking about that right now. I'm just planning that out.
Yeah, very jazzed. So everybody, listen, you guys know the rules. You buy me a drink, I'll talk to you for at least 30 minutes. You buy me 2 drinks. You got to read my body language after that. You got to know when's enough is enough. It's not that I don't care about you. It's just there's a lot of people out there that want to talk to us. So looking forward to it. And by the way, I talked to MJ. He's going to be at Tinley. I think we're going to be going live in the lobby on Fridays. So I'm looking forward to doing that again. I enjoy that atmosphere. I enjoy bringing random people over. It was one of my favorite things, and it came to an end. I'm glad we're bringing it back. So keep an eye out for us in the lobby. We'll be doing a live on Friday night. And other than that, guys, thank you again. Look forward to seeing everybody at Tinley.
Thank you.
I'll see you guys later.
Yeah. Thanks, guys.
Good night.
A few moments later.
Well, we going to casino or what?
Yeah.
The casino?
I heard there's a new casino. Pat told me about it. I don't know if there is. Will, where do you usually go?
I normally go to the casino when we go to Arlington. But we've gone to one before. It was like, I want to say it was like Harrah's or something. Hannah's. And,
Harrah's is like a chain. I know they're in St. Louis, so it's probably what Harrah's is a big.
We went
casino
one
chain.
only. I went with Nick and Harrison, and I forget who else came with us. But they wouldn't let me into the one because I didn't have a U.S. ID. So they were like, "No, you can't come in."
Shit.
And I was like,
okay.
I was like, "What?"
I didn't think about that. It's gambling
like,
shit.
You have to have
Maybe.
your passport. And I was like, I'm not bringing my passport to the casino. I'm going to lose that. Like, no way.
Yeah.
And so
Yeah.
we went to a different one, and they let us in right away. And we all won like $1,500. It was great.
Oh yeah.
You
Yeah.
should have reached in your pocket and pulled out a handful of loonies and slammed it down and be like, "Is this money not good here?"
Yeah. Bunch of loonies and toonies. Yeah.
So, Bob, I brought this up to you in the past, and we'll make this a wrap up. I want to set up a Thursday night Tinley poker game. I talked to said he'd be interested in being the dealer for that. And my thoughts are a live stream. Buy-in will be a certain amount of ball pythons in value. We could stack all the deli cups in the center of the table, and we could do a little.
Doing that, yeah.
Yeah, I've wanted to do it for years. I want to do a custom set of poker chips every year for that. The winner gets the set of poker chips. Maybe we have a secondary set that can maybe be donated to the auction that weekend, but we could rent a room. We could set it up. Help me. I want to do this next October.
So I think Daytona is a better destination to do that because I only say that because I come into Daytona on Thursday. And there's a card room in Daytona you can just go to and play. You have your dealer, everything. Everybody buys in for X amounts. But for the gimmick of the video, it would be better to do it in someone's room. But I rent an Airbnb every year. There's no reason why we can't do that in there or someone's Airbnb house. But for the sake of making it like serious game, I would say we can just go to the card room or something and do that. But, something like that. It doesn't have to be any meeting.
Are they going to let us walk in with a bunch of ball pythons?
No, so that's what I'm saying. With the gimmick of the ball pythons, we'd have to do that in someone's room or play a game in there. And again, I'm okay with that too. I play a lot of house games. I think it'll be fun, a little small buy-in, maybe like a $2,000. Yeah, $2,000 $2,020 DT pound or something. I don't know.
$2,000 in deli cups.
Hell yeah. You gotta bring at least $2K worth of deli cups.
Volume count, right? I can bring 60 deli cups and just
a whole tote.
You can bring
the tote goes on the table.
Yeah.
I raise you.
Yeah, just slide it into the middle.
All in, dude.
Yeah. I raise you 4 pastel head clowns.
I'm just trying to lose on purpose.
I'm going all in with a 7 and a 2. Just take it.
Oh, damn.
All right, guys, I'm out, dude. Good night.
Got me bluffing. Keep on.
You guys are gonna love it when I walk in with a $120 ball python stacked up. Small deli cups. I don't want to take up too much room on the table, but they're gonna be the bulk of the snakes. But no, I'd love to set that up. And honestly, sometimes I just need a little help with these kind of things. So like, Bob, something you might want to help out with.
Maybe I'm just throwing this out there, Dave. Maybe you don't ask to do that then.
I told about the idea. I understand. He said I would actually love to be the dealer at that thing.
Dealer? He's a poker dealer? He's a gambler?
Gambler.
Oh.
No, I think it was at Pomona. We were all in like a big circle, and I was kind of talking about ideas that I had to create, stuff for the hobby, entertainment for the hobby. And when I told him about that idea, he was the one who came on and said, I would like to be a dealer for it, but not actually playing the game. But that was as far as that conversation goes. We can always find somebody else, but I don't mind. We want there.
Yeah, that's like me going to the bar and inviting my alcoholic friend.
All right. Well, he invited himself. I am so sorry.
You just stand here and watch me drink.
Yeah. Come and watch us all gamble.